I think we should probably, let's see, but as from my experience, people tend to be 5 minutes late. the polite 5 minutes. So
yeah, no, I'm just checking. So I can see the poll piece now because
you can.
No, cannot. I cannot. Hold on.
I have it. I have it in front of me if you want me to. I will manage them anyways.
I see the reactions. That's fine.
Hello to people coming in. Welcome.
Yeah, no, I cannot mute and unmute folks. So let me just try to go back in as a host here. You are co-host, so you should be fine. Let me do this again. Oh yeah, maybe it would help if I was logged in as the right host, yeah.
And we have another guest from Finland.
Oh, who's that? Who's joining?
I know that because that's my girlfriend. Supporting.
Great.
To get inspiration.
Amazing.
Hello. Show us your camera. It's fine.
Don't start all this lovey-dovey stuff now, please.
Exactly,
no,
please.
No, it's a serious
Contenance.
Contenance.
What?
Nice. Nice you made it.
Amazing. There we go. Copy.
Oh, there's Cory. Nice. Do we have all panelists and Cory? Yeah, and then I think we're complete. At least the lineup.
That's right. On our end, we are. Yes.
On our end, we are. People dropping in. Hi, Cory.
Hey, everyone.
Good to have you. Thank you for making it.
Cory, hey, I'm Tatiana. I'm the one who's the causer of this mess.
Yeah, this is great. Thanks for putting this all together. I hope my face doesn't look too tired.
No, we were just guessing whether this is your normal time or we just made you make it look like your normal time.
It usually is. 5 a.m. is usually my normal time, but for some reason, I've been sleeping more these days.
Of course it is. Good one, love it. No, thank you so much for being with us. It's a real honor, and I'm sure it's going to be real fun.
Thank you. My pleasure. So at 7 a.m. will be like a brief intro, and then I'll go into, or my 7 a.m.
That's right. Your 7 a.m. We'll do a quick introduction, a welcome. Then I'll hand over to you. And if you don't mind, I'm going to give a very quick sneak into why you made it to here. You don't even know the story yourselves, but I hope you'll enjoy it.
Great.
It will be 60 seconds. It will be good.
Wonderful.
Oh, good.
I guess we'll wait a couple of minutes to not be too German about this, even though it's the Berlin chapter. But
that's great.
We have very low representation of Germans today, though, so I think we're doing fine. I'm just checking on the side. So again, don't feel disrupted by me. 19 participants so far. I think we have a few more moments to go, and then we'll kick it off. So welcome everybody. I'm seeing names popping up. I'll just call out a few. Gabi, Louise, Katerina, Sven, Stanka. Welcome, 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 welcome. So happy to have you. I see Regina, Irina, Leah, somebody with a number, very cryptic. Pranya. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. More people joining, that's amazing.
Cool.
Welcome, Yannick. So we'll give it a few more moments. Beautiful. Perfect. I'll say we'll give it one more minute and then we get started. You all right with that?
Okay.
Perfect.
Recordings running. Yeah. It's running.
Yes, for everybody's information, this event will be recorded, not to test you, but rather to have an opportunity to go back to it and hopefully cherish some memories over time. And obviously, we will also be taking some snippets as we follow on from this event, share some of our learnings. We hope you don't mind that we'll be taking maybe some of your thoughts, some of your ideas, some of your questions. But before we publish anything, for everybody's information, we will always be seeking your permission. Yeah, we've been done this with the speakers, we've been done this with all the contributors to this event. We always ask, is that how you're okay for us to promote it or to share this information or to talk about this, that, or the other? Yeah, so you will always see what we do. And you always have the right to say, I don't want this to be published, or I'd rather put it in different words so they are more me. And this is the material I'm comfortable with having in the public space. Okay, so that's super important. That's about the integrity of this chapter, but also of the philosophy of how we work in Hacking HR. I'll say a few words about this in a moment, just welcoming a few more people, and then we can get started.
Cool. And also just a note, of course, I mean, you're not, you're encouraged to maybe also put your camera on. We know it might be 7 a.m. where you are and, tricky to get out of bed. So that's okay as an excuse. But if you want, of course, more than welcome to do so. We make this as personal as possible. We are in isolation, but I think we can also put a smile on to make that feel even more connected. Sven is sitting in the sun. Very good. Good choice, Sven. Looking good.
Beautiful words. Nice reminder. Thank you, Daniel. Welcome, Katerina, Joanna, Anthony. So there's more people joining, but obviously we'll get started in the interest of time, and thanks to everybody else who's been on time. So Thursday, 23rd of April 2020. My name is Tatiana Tashan. I'm honored. I'm excited. I'm very, very grateful for all your time. I do a number of things in my life if you've looked up my profile, but this is one of my greatest passions. I am a member of the Hacking HR community, which is a global community that runs across a number of countries. So far, we've got about 80 chapters globally where we connect and unite the HR community. We look at the future of work, and we look at all of the aspects that the future will bring, how we can best prepare our peers and colleagues, but also how can we as HR professionals influence the future of work and through that influence people and society. So the mission is super big. I'm a proud lead of the Berlin chapter, and I've been running these events offline, of course, and then we got all stuck, as we know, and I felt I don't want to wait. I'm not going to wait until we can finally meet in person. I'm going to take this online. And I found some amazing supporters. I found some amazing ambassadors. A huge call out to Daniel on my screen. He's on the top right. Wave, Daniel. Daniel is my co-host for today. I've had him as a guest before. We've been crushing a number of events online and on stage. So I'm really, really excited to have him. And with that, welcome to the kickoff of our series, How to Stay Sane in HR and Through HR. A very big welcome. Daniel?
Yeah, welcome to all of you, also from my side. Thanks especially, of course, to Tatiana for asking me to co-moderate this and co-organize this. I think it's, Tatiana is in the space since many, many years. I, as a senior transformation consultant at Coach Hub, where we basically scale coaching in large organizations, I happen to talk to 20, 30 executives every week in different companies, especially right now, hearing all the struggles that people are going through, and really realizing that it's the people who are really at the front and the most under pressure is actually the HR, and the role of HR is changing. We will talk about that. So I was really excited to do this and to come up with that cool, catchy title, which I think today we will really get to the core of. And just amazing to be here. As Tatiana said, we've done some events together. Actually, I was interviewing you in Vienna when I was moderating this HR 360, and then we did HR hacking in Berlin, the first chapter in person. So really glad to continue this and have you all here, and especially thanks to our guests from all over the world and from 2 continents. For joining us and for all people who made it possible.
Indeed. Thank you so much. We have an amazing lineup of speakers, and we will be introducing them in a bit more detail shortly. But before that, we do that. It is an absolute delight, and I've said it in my posts, but I cannot repeat it enough. We have a special guest with us today. It's 7 o'clock in the morning on his side of the world. It's Cory Muscara. Cory, if you can say hi.
Hi, everyone.
Cory is an amazing person and a very kind soul, and I'll tell you why. I fell in love with his voice to start with. I was looking for support in very stressful times, being an HR leader, chief people officer myself, and I'm not good at patience. People who know me know that. So I've been super hard looking for something that is a bit more soothing, but that is not as boring or as hard for me to sit still and, you know, open my mind and hope something magic will happen. So I've been looking very, very hard, and I accidentally stumbled over one of Cory's meditations, and I had no face, I had no clue who he was, but he spoke. And he spoke straight to my heart, I will say. There is a smile in his voice, and I'm sure you will recognize it in a moment. There is something. I just felt, this is unreal. How can a person smile all the time and talk to me? And it's remote, and I don't know him, and I feel so touched. It's like there is something to it. So as I was discussing and thinking, you know, how can we bring this event online, and how can we really help people, inspire people, give them a bit of a break and give them a bit of a relief, Cory's name came to my mind. I reached out to him. 24 hours later, he said yes. So with that, thank you so much for being with us, Cory. I'll leave the stage for you. Take it away, and then we'll see where it takes us.
Thanks, Tatiana, and thank you, Daniel. Hey, everyone. Good morning. Well, good evening for many of you. It's nice to be with you for a little bit to help kick off this event. It's hard to not open up by just acknowledging a bit what's going on in the world right now, and it's interesting in that, at least in my lifetime, this is the first time like we're all going through something, so it's impossible not to be impacted by it in some way. And I also want to acknowledge that people are being impacted by it in different ways. And I noticed that for me, there's like a range. And if I hear some in the background, so if we could just put our mics on mute, that would be great. Awesome. Thanks.
Done.
For some of us, this is really hitting hard and painful and close to home, and is a struggle. And then for others, it's kind of like, oh, well, this is just how my day usually goes. I'm usually stuck at home behind a computer on Zoom calls. So I want to make space for the different range of emotions that might be coming into this, the different experiences, and they're all valid. You don't need to feel a particular way because someone else is feeling a particular way, on the positive side or the negative side. And that's really at the heart of what we're going to get to explore here with mindfulness. You know, 10 years ago, you probably had to do a little bit more of an overview of what mindfulness is. It was still a very new idea. And it's still the case now, but chances are a lot of you have heard of this idea of mindfulness or meditation or a different meditation, the different apps that are out there. It's becoming a big part of our conceptualization of mental health and well-being. You know, for years, there've been gyms on every street corner, but where do you go to train your mind, to develop focus? I was told my entire childhood, Cory, you need to focus, you need to focus, you need to focus. Not a single teacher taught me how to focus. And it turns out it's a little harder to do than just like do it. And this practice of mindfulness is a form of mental fitness. Is one way we could think of it, that really helps train these certain faculties of mind, of presence, gratitude, compassion, kindness, relaxation, ease. And for me, it makes me a better person. It sensitizes me to my life. And sometimes that means sensitizing me to some of the pain in my life. But without that, I can also experience the joy, the gratitude, the pleasure, the ease. And I think culturally we have this thing where if something is too intense, we just sort of go numb. We try to block it out, but it's not possible to just block out the bad stuff and then get access to all the good stuff. The system doesn't work like that. We block out one thing and we start shutting down altogether. And so a big part of my hope in my work is to really reconnect people to the pulse of their own lives, to be more full, embodied human beings. And we're better forces in the world than for ourselves, our families, our communities, and our world. And as HR people, I think this is extremely important because you're working with so many people, and it's important to stay attuned and connected to another human, another person, and the full range of them without being completely drained and overwhelmed by taking on all of their emotions, their stories, their stuff. So so I'm going to guide us through a practice that will allow us to drop more intimately into our personal experience, but in a way and we're not overwhelmed by it. So let's start by finding a comfortable posture, however that looks for you. For me, I'm sitting in a chair, so my feet are going to be flat on the ground. The hands can be palms down, palms up on your lap. And the invitation for this meditation will be to close the eyes if that's comfortable. If it's not comfortable, it's okay to keep them open as well. Maybe just keep the gaze pointed down toward the screen. And one other thing I want to say is, if you're kind of like me, sometimes on Zoom calls, you're like half in, half out. And it's like, all right, I'll go on just to get the gist of it, but I'll turn my screen off and then I'll browse some other stuff while the meditation dude is talking. I get that. And just since you're here, since you've already allocated this time, just see if you could, for like 10 minutes, just be fully here, just as a thought experiment to see what that would be like. So we'll close other tabs, maybe make the screen full screen, the Zoom screen. And let's close our eyes if that's okay. I brought some bells with me, so I'm going to ring these bells. And when you hear them, all I want you to do is bring your full attention to the sound of the bell from the moment it begins all the way until it dissolves into silence. I'm just going to take the first few moments of this to settle in. I'm sure there is a lot going on in your life, and potentially a lot that already happened today. And sometimes when we stop and be still, we can feel the momentum of the day still rushing through us, trying to push us into the next moment, into the next event, the next drama, the next problem we need to fix. And there's no need to worry, that will all be there when we need to go back to it. But for right now, see what it would be like to actually give yourself permission to be here, to not have to get someplace else, to not have to become some better version of yourself. And to not have to fix or solve any problems in this moment. Inviting the jaw to relax. The teeth don't need to be clenched. You can invite the shoulders to be at ease, as well as the hands and the belly. Just notice how the body can hold this excess tension without us consciously realizing it. And when we invite the body to be a little more at ease, it gives the mind some permission to be more at ease. So there are a lot of ways that we can attune ourselves to our lives and to our present moment. One way is just noticing anything that we can hear. So of course there's the sound of my voice, but you may also hear subtle sounds or more obvious sounds in the background. And instead of viewing any of this as a distraction, see if you can view it through the lens of appreciating the ability to hear in whatever capacity you have it available to you. Focusing less on the content of what you're hearing and more on the experience of hearing. So tuning into sound in this way is one way that we can develop the quality of mindfulness. We can also do this with thoughts. A lot of the times we're trying to push away thoughts or change thoughts or make them more positive. Instead, what's it like just to watch your mind thinking as if you were lying on the ground and watching clouds pass through the sky? Just a thought coming and going. You didn't really ask it to be there. If there's worry, it's not like you asked your mind to do a good amount of worrying during the meditation. This stuff just arises. And so, what would it be like to not take it so seriously and instead become an observer to the experience rather than sucked into the experience? Almost as if you were listening to someone else having a conversation. And lastly, let's turn our attention to the fact that we're breathing, that you're breathing. If you'd like, you can even place one hand on your abdomen to feel the breath more vividly in your body. And for this, we're making it incredibly simple. All you have to do is bring your full presence to one breath, feeling the body as it takes an inhale, and feeling the ease as you exhale. And if you can do that once, then try and give your full presence to another one, and another one. And each moment of presence is a little pearl. We're just stringing them together, creating a necklace. The mind will wander, of course. It's so normal. So we don't have to beat ourselves up over that. We just notice, oh, there goes the mind. We gently bring it back to the breath. In the last few moments of this meditation together, I invite you to make an intention for your time during the rest of this event. Maybe a particular way that you would like to show up, an attitude you would like to bring, a presence that you would like to bring. Doesn't matter what it is, but just something that feels aligned with you. Feel what it's like to set that intention and really feel that intention in your mind and in your body. So in a moment, I will ring the bells. And when I do, just bring your full awareness to the sound of the bell again until it dissolves back into silence. And when you're ready, you can allow your eyes to start to open, reorienting yourself. And if you'd like to turn on your camera for a moment, maybe just taking like 30 seconds to look at some of the people that you're with. Now, they won't be able to know if you're looking directly at them, which might give you more permission to make creepy eye contact. But the quality of like mindfulness that we just developed with ourselves, feel what it's like to maybe bring that to another person for a few moments. Just acknowledging that this person, like you, has thoughts, they have emotions, they have sensations. There are days that feel really clear and joyful, and there are days that, for this person, have fear and uncertainty. And this practice, mindfulness meditation, even though it's something that connects us to ourselves, is really a practice of connecting to our shared humanity. So every time that you attune to yourself, you're attuning to the larger whole. So thank you, everyone. This practice, what we did, if you wanted to continue, is very simple. You could just close your eyes for a few moments, put your attention on your breath, and almost treat it like a bicep curl for your brain. Unless you don't like that metaphor and it feels too aggressive. But, the mind wanders off and then we bring it back. Wanders off, we bring it back. Wanders off, we bring it back. And you're quite literally training the brain. And the research supports that. The more you do that, areas of the brain responsible for stress and anxiety, they literally start to shrink. And then areas responsible for empathy, compassion, joy, gratitude, focus, memory, these areas start to grow in physical structure. So it is a training and something that gets developed over time. If you notice a lot of thoughts arise in the practice, it's totally normal. This is what the mind does. And the piece that we might be cultivating doesn't arise so much from the absence of thoughts, but more cultivating a relationship to thoughts in such a way that we're able to just go, oh yeah, it's just a thought, rather than, oh, I hate when my mind is thinking, I'm so bad at this. Everyone else is such a good meditator. They're not having thoughts. And we bring our type A personality into it and like, I'm going to be the best meditator on this whole Zoom call. Nobody's going to be as peaceful as I am. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. And we start thinking, and we end up creating more stress for ourselves in a process that was helping to soothe some of it. So that's very normal, just something to catch within yourself. I'm probably going to start doing some live meditations on my Instagram account. If you wanted to follow along there, it's just at Cory Muscara. I think those will start next week. And I'm also excited to share a new app that we have coming out at mindfulness.com. And they give me access to a really big discount for friends, which I'm happy to share with you. It's just mindfulness.com/Cory if you wanted to look at that. It's actually launching today or tomorrow. So I'd love to see you there. But aside from that, I really appreciate your time, your presence, and your practice and the work you're doing in the world. Reach out if you have any questions. Instagram is probably the best place to find me. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here with you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Cory. I think this was a much needed break for a lot of us. Please, everyone, feel free to use the chat room and to share if that was helpful, if you found it useful. Any thoughts you want to share with Cory or us, we'd really appreciate to hear from you. Clearly, to me, it is a very special moment, so thank you. Thank you, Cory, for being with us. Yeah. Thank you for sharing your wisdom. And some of those actually simple ideas that we tend to forget when we all start running around and looking for everybody else but us. So really, really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Thanks, everyone. Talk to you soon and take care.
Good to have you.
Thanks
you.
so much.
Yeah,
I want to clap, but that would disturb the mindfulness.
Yeah.
Let's mindful.
And you're learning.
Yes.
Thanks, Cory.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you. And have a good start in your day.
Thank you. Thank you. Take care.
All right.
Wow. Where do we go from here? Is everybody all right?
Get settled. Good.
Yeah.
See some
Take
nodding.
A breath. Very good. Lovely. So that is really all we wanted to achieve, to give ourselves a bit of a pause and to see if we can also look after ourselves first. It's like the classic with the oxygen mask in the airplane, right? If we don't care for ourselves, we can't take care of all the other people around us. And we do have important roles. We cover, as Cory said, a lot of lives and we touch a lot of people. So I think this is an important reminder. So hopefully it's helpful. We'll continue doing this kind of practical little thingy, this exercise type of engagement in our next events too. We do believe it's important, and we will have further speakers and practitioners coming. If you want to showcase something that you do, you're very welcome to reach out to Daniel and I. or if you know somebody who's as amazing as Cory. The bar is high, I'm afraid, but if you know somebody, then please do let us know, and we'll happily share and make sure that we can get them onto our stages as well. So thank you. Wow. Daniel.
Cool. Yeah, well, I don't know. Whatever I'm going to say will seem meaningless now. But anyways, I'll give it a try because we have a lot of great people and insights and discussions coming up. Just want to give you a little bit of an overview of how the next hour, 1.5 hours will, or we are planning on going. So basically we will have 2 panels because we thought the question how to stay sane in HR and through HR deserves 2 panels because it's 2 questions, how to stay sane in HR and how to stay sane through HR. So those are also going to be the titles of each of the panels. We will have 3 experts for each panel, if I'm correct. So the first will be moderated by me, starting with how to stay sane in HR, and then how to stay sane through HR in the second panel. Tatiana will be moderating that one. We will have a couple of polls. So we want to have you interacting, give us input. So we also maybe gain some valuable insights from the crowd here. And also we will have space for Q&A. So we're planning on doing about 30 minutes plus minus on the questions from the experts who will be answering and giving their opinions. And then 15 minutes we will open up so you can ask the questions, raise your hand through the, or ask a question through the chat. And then we can get started and forward your questions to the expert. We will also have a bio break in the middle where you can relax, visit the holy place for a little bit, and then get ready. Well, if you have to, but we will make a 5 to 10 minute break. I don't know, Tatiana, have you already started with the first question or was that?
Yes, I just started the first poll because it is timely. I'm just going to read it out. If you look at your bar, you should see a polling button. The first question is, what are the biggest challenges when working from home? And you obviously have a multiple choice option. We just like to take a pulse. We have heard from a lot of people individually, but it would be great to see a crowd view so that we can also steer the conversation a little bit in that direction if needed. Yeah, so depending on your results. Obviously, we have some assumptions, but we don't want to work on assumptions. We would love to have the reality, and then we can tweak around that and address the most pressing topics, hopefully during today and going forward. We are seeing some early trends, but we'll give you more time, so feel free to do this. All right, Daniel, you want to do a quick intro of the speakers of panel number 1? I'll be observing the chat room and the poll in the meantime.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me do this. We'll have a brief introduction of all the speakers in no particular order. But first of all, of course, starting with the first panel, the second one will be then announced by Tatiana. Let me just get the first panel right. All right, cool. So while you are still answering to the very important question on what you're struggling with the most, which we can then include into the panel, I want to first introduce Vanessa Grube. Maybe Vanessa, you can raise your hand. Great. So Vanessa is actually head of talent and organization development at Philip Morris International, a company that many of you might know, ensuring the highest standards and tools and processes for employees to be able to successfully drive the company's current transformation. And it's a very interesting one. It's actually to create a smoke-free future. Maybe you can elaborate a little bit more on that later. She has about 20 years of experiences in HR, and before joining Philip Morris, she was in charge of global HR transformation at Merck in the pharma sector, and she's also an ECA certified systemic coach. Thanks so much for being on, Vanessa. I really appreciate it. Cool. Next one, we have, just figure my mic. All right. We have from Berlin, Alex Sibilia. Alex, if you also want to maybe make yourself, there he is. Awesome. Hello, Alex. Welcome. Yeah, I've been knowing Alex for some time now, actually, quite some time. Before he was working at SoundCloud, and since recently he is senior people experience partner at Blinkist. He's also a freelance consultant and certified systemic coach. He studied organizational psychology and has spent his working journey in various industry and roles within HR. yet always a focus on development on individuals, teams, but also organizations. So we're really happy to have you here. Thanks so much for making it. And then we will have Judith Hübner. Judith Hübner is an HR generalist and currently working at, and I have to get that right, because actually before I thought it was BVG, but it's actually Berliner Stadtreinigung, richtig? Yeah? Good, perfect. So Judith, thanks so much for making it. Judith is also really experienced in the field of HR with more than 20 years of experience and really focusing on being a strategic support and currently heading up the entire people department. And last but not least, well, we also have Tatjana. I don't know, you gave an intro in the beginning. Anything else to say, Tatjana? Maybe I'll give that to you, or?
No, I think enough said about me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
Yeah, people know me usually, and if you don't, I think you can see my passion pours for HR. And I'm a genuine people lover. You will see this on my LinkedIn profile. I mean it. I usually start my consulting gigs with, you can have my service or you can have my heart. You choose. A lot of CEOs get perplexed. Those who get it have amazing successes. Those who don't get it, well, I'll leave them to others. But other than that, no, I'm just super excited to be here. I'm going to try to limit my contributions because obviously all the other folks are just amazing. They know their stuff. They are, top notch in their industry and what they're doing. And with that, there is not much to be discussed from my end. I will add my snippets, but other than that, we'll give space for everybody else.
Cool. Yeah. And Tatjana, I mean, not only a consultant now, but she has actually a lot of experience on the ground in the trenches. So having worked for, Vodafone and Amazon, as far as I remember. Yeah.
No, I've been in US Bank. I've been in Adobe. So I've seen all the large players. But over the last few years, I've focused on startups and scale-ups up to 1,000 people because this is where you can still shape the future. And where you have a lot of passion and energy and founders and CEOs. And that is certainly something that we are super passionate about, to really reach early and then design from scratch. What I would also like to shout out, Daniel, if you could also call out Ama right away,
I was just
so we
about
don't have to repeat that.
I think I confused something because, I think actually, Vanessa, you will be in the second panel. Is that correct? Tatjana, I think
that's all right. Yes.
I mixed it up. Sorry, guys.
No worries.
But now you already know who's also on the second panel. I won't reveal the other ones. That's to come later. But actually, totally right. I just realized it myself. We have an absolute special guest because what Cory didn't say is that he used to be a monk as well. I think, though, for half a year or a year. But now we have Amaranatho Maurice Robey, who is joining us from Netherlands. Maybe you can also raise your hand. I heard the shorter version is Amma, right? Is that okay? Just bringing it down to that. So it's less of a challenge, but a beautiful name and also very interesting person. He has been a Buddhist monk for 15 years and spent long periods of his life actually in isolation, and not because of, what is happening now, but actually on purpose, dealing with uncertainty. But he also has a degree in AI. He's been a world explorer and mindfulness-based executive and agile mindset coach, also Scrum Master. And he's actually right now with Playful Monk, which is a very interesting organization he started, approaching it, the awakening of people and organizations to their true potential. So we are really happy to have you as well, and to add that, and to maybe also continue maybe from a mindfulness perspective and to add to this conversation today. Cool. So the poll is ready. We got all results.
That's right. We have 95%, 95% contribution. So thank you so much. That's amazing. You want to read out the answers, Daniel? You have them in front of you?
Yeah, maybe the top three. I mean, which kind of answers we had. We asked you to, to answer the top three. Number one is keeping my focus in general. So concentration and focus seems to be a challenge right now. We did specify after constant distraction through kids or also through mails and constant buzzing, Slack and other channels. But number two is actually taking care of myself. it's pretty much actually the same. It's around 40%. So it seems to be really timely that we are doing this today. And then on spot number three, actually they share places, is separating workspace from private space and setting myself boundaries. Okay, so these are the challenges that people are dealing with the most. And with that, without further ado, let's start with the panel, how to stay sane in HR. And that actually is also in a way the first question, right? Because the first and very important question is, how are you, your teams, your colleagues, or maybe if you're dealing with HR teams, coping right now with the current situation? How are you staying sane? And especially, what is your biggest learning when trying to stay sane in the process? I will not appoint anyone, but if of the experts, maybe one of you wants to start with their impression or thoughts about this.
I can start. Have we ever been sane in HR?
Okay,
I mean,
touché.
first of all, before I say something answering this question, I would like to say thank you for all the work all these people in the conference are doing, because I think everybody of you is doing an extraordinary job, and probably not an awful lot of people get a great thank you at the moment, because it's really hard. You're supporting the managers, you're supporting the employees, you're supporting everyone, and who's supporting you. So I would start off with saying thank you, because I think it's really, really, really important that people get that. What I gathered in my team, and just to correct this, I'm at the moment in between jobs. So I stopped working for the Berliner Stadtreinigung. I will start to work for Takeaway in May. So I'm a bit in a luxurious position at the moment. But from what I gathered the last weeks in my team, they were actually more clinging together. So they started, and that was an issue all the 2 years before. They were barely not really good working together, and that's what they started. Just when we went and worked from home, they started to talk to each other more frequently, and I think they started to acknowledge themselves as people more than as colleagues, and that was something I observed, and I think that was really, really important, because it was kind of substituting what they've done when they met in the kitchen or when they had a coffee together. And that's what they tried still to do with telcos and WebExes. And I think what I gathered from this is, in that situation, which is not a normal work from home situation, because it's a crisis and everybody is in it. I think you have to realize that you have to deal with the people side much more than the work side, and acknowledge the people as humans more than as your associates. But what is the experience of the others in the panel?
And maybe Alex, maybe you want to go. You want to go next from your perspective?
Can you just say the question again? Somehow I missed it when you were talking, just that I'm to the right.
Yeah, basically, how are you, the main question answered in a way how you, your team, your HR colleagues, HR leaders are actually keeping themselves and the team sane, maybe some strategy, or what have you seen? And most importantly, what have you learned so far in the process?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think you probably all noticed that we're going through different phases. I think that was very interesting, and also how we responded to it as a team. So when we took the decision, to go work from home, that was fairly easy for us because we're set up for remote work. So we were not worried about that. And after the first week of everybody settling in, we started noticing that we heard more words like stress and burnout. And obviously that got us very busy as a people team, because the first week was really focusing on how can we get the business and keep the business going. And then the people topics started to come through. And so what we're doing regularly, but we're doing much more now, is also to really look at what are the dynamics we're seeing, not only, you know, the data, because there is some data, but, you know, what is our intuition saying? You know, what are we seeing in the different parts of the organization? So we're trying to be very attentive. Also, you know, we send out all the resources on how to work remote, you know, try to support for people to settle in. And you probably also all heard it, you know, this one thing is like when you're remote, over communicate. So we were like communicating like crazy until we realized that people just, you know, turn off Slack because they cannot cope with it anymore. and so we had to change our strategy. So what we did is not to be in people's faces all the time, but making sure we're available, accessible. And I think that's important on a remote work. You know, you can be available but not accessible, but also visible. Usually we act in the background, we do one-on-ones, etc. Also using our all hands, our weekly all hands to say where we're standing, what we need to see, what we need to hear, but also reminding constantly for self-care, you know, to be attentive to where they're standing, take breaks, take days off. It's okay to not be 100% productive. You know, this is not a sprint anymore, but it's a marathon. So keep your energies, and we certainly do that and practice that also in our team.
Perfect. Well, thanks so much to both of you. So Alex mentioned also, I found it interesting. We will get to this later. Probably also using data. What are people actually struggling with to even prevent what you said, burnout and other things, and not over communicating. And also you did about seeing people more as, or seeing the coworkers more as people rather than colleagues. Maybe the other ones, maybe Amaranatho, I'm so sorry. Maybe your contribution also to that, working with HR teams. What are you seeing?
Yeah, great, thank you. So I'm mainly working with the leaders and executives of the team. So, and I've come from a completely different background. I come from a completely different approach than probably most people here. I haven't even been in big businesses ever in my life. So as a worker, as an employee or anything like that at all. But I did have a very clear way of how to work with complexity and uncertainty because I've had so much of it in my own life and run so many retreats and creative events. So I ran very large retreats with 100 people, many facilitators for a long period of time, 10 days. So I learned a lot of skills on the ground. And then I had this rather blinkered view about how I would work with executives and leaders. And I've continued with that. And mostly I've sort of been laughed at along the lines, along the way for the last few years. And of course, now you're all in my garden. And it's interesting for me to see that, like I was speaking to one of the executives I've been working for some time yesterday. He's head of a big HR firm, maybe a very big HR firm in the UK. And it was a fairly normal coaching session for us because we've been talking about this for a long time. If he wasn't able to respond at this time, then I would have done something wrong in my coaching sessions. So I don't see, I see, I hardly, I'm not saying that there's not stress or any of those things that you've mentioned and the things that you're doing. I totally get that. But I'm not seeing that. I'm not experiencing like overwhelm in my sessions of these people that I'm coaching, because I just see that humans have to come first. That's it. There is no, we have a body. That's what Cory started with. We have a body and a breath, and it connects us to other. And the more that we can stay with that, then the easier life is. And so I just don't, I haven't seen it really. I see sanity. Yeah. And this is a company that had to, rip out a load of computers from their workforce and send them home, send the people home with an extra screen because, that's the way they work.
Right. I see. Yeah, you're also probably touching on the stages, as Alex said, right? I mean,
No, not stages. No, I'm not saying that at
no.
all. No, I'm saying from the start. Like I'm saying each week the way that I checked in, it's been like that. There hasn't been that level. I'm saying there was stress in the organization itself, but with the people that I'm working with, that's not the case. And that's also the question here, isn't it? Why is this arising in this way?
Right.
It's very encouraging, though, to hear that some leaders, do stay sane and do stay stable, if you like.
It's an absolute possibility.
Which is great, because I think on the HR side, if we look from a practical point of view, we usually first assume there will be chaos and drama and tragedy.
Yes.
And then we kind of roll from that dark place towards the more positive sides.
Yes.
I will say I've seen different ways of people looking at it. I've seen companies and leaders, especially startup and scale-up environment, some really struggling for survival because investors are pulling back. And all the wonderful discussions around, people come first and we're building the future and we have some, tremendous opportunity, yada, yada. All of a sudden that doesn't count. It's all just hard facts, it's numbers, it's data, it's survival, it's how much cash is in the bank, how much runway do we have left. And there is others who say it's a blip, as hard as it sounds and as harsh as it is privately, personally, for a lot of people. But as to strategy, where we are heading, we are not changing, we are not moving. We will stay firm and we will not let our people down. They've been with us through good times. Now we have to prove to them that we are also strong in bad times. But there is obviously a bit of, variation individually. I think a lot of people are still masking behind, I have to be the strong one because I'm leading this ship. So I'd love to learn more about that, whether that's a reflection from other people as well, or whether it's just me seeing it. But that's certainly something that I'm witnessing.
And connecting to that, also the question to you who are on the, really in the HR teams, have you seen a change connected to what Tatjana just said in the way how HR is functioning or how it is being perceived by the business these days? And if so, why is that happening?
In our organization, I think there is a slight change. I mean, I have to say that we're an organization of 160 people, so it's easy to see everyone or most of the people. We have close connections, so I think we also have those close connections as a people team. However, what we're seeing is, and we're not in survival mode in the sense that we should close, but obviously we're a startup or a scale up, and yes, we're having the question, are we going to survive? How are we still going to bring forward the product? And what I saw, and that's what I also meant with the stages, the first two, 3 weeks were like, okay, how are we going to respond in the product? How are we going to respond in the development of it? There was a recovery plan, et cetera, et cetera. And it was very much focused on the product. And that's when also we came in as a people team and say, okay, we get this, but if you only focus on the product, we also need to make sure people can go on this marathon of dimensions, and keep their breath. So if you overuse them now, if this is going to take longer, we might lose some people on the line because of physical illness, mental health illness. So our job was really also to bring that attention more and more. And there obviously was the question, do you have data? It's like, this is happening so fast. We can get some fast data, and we'll talk maybe later about it. But now you just also have to trust that this is the things we're seeing, we're talking to the people. And I think it makes our bond stronger, not only on the data part, but also, okay, we need to trust that the people are doing the right things. And we don't maybe have those classic tools of data and the survey here and something there. And I think that brings us together and gives us the role of really keeping an eye on the dynamics, also with the executives, and make sure that they're seeing the issues. We also just really recently introduced the role of people partners or HR business partners. And I think for us, it's a very good opportunity to show why our work is important, what we can bring, not only to, talking to people and keeping them, together in the team, but also really as a partner when it's about strategy or going into this. We told them we have your back, and we need to trust them, which we had before, but I think it became even
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and also these initiatives that you're starting and combining the new roles, also with really reflecting in the organization, and also how you highlighted again, it's a marathon and not a sprint. Judith, have you seen any changes in how HR's role is maybe shifting or being perceived differently these days? Can't hear you.
Yes, now. For the team in the Berliner Stadtreinigung, it was really, really hard because we went from, let's say, 1985 into 2020 in no time, because we were not set up at all for any remote work, because that was not there. We had a Works Council agreement about the possibility to work from home, and there were in my department lots of people using it already, but it was just like people were going home doing their work, but we didn't have any collaboration, so we didn't have any Zoom or GoToMeeting or WebEx or whatever. So that was something we had to learn from scratch, and at the same time, I mean, the rest of the organization had to do this as well. And so my people development folks, they were pressed to introduce some tools to help people to learn how to work online together, collaboration and everything. And they set up this in a very, very short time. So there was lots of pressure. There were lots of pressure also on the legal side of things, because we were preparing Works Council agreements for reduced work and all that stuff. So that was really, really difficult.
Working council, yeah.
And especially you cannot deal with Works Councils over the phone, over video. I mean, they still haven't got that law in place yet. I mean, I think it's in the Bundestag now, so that they allow it until the end of this year. That's ridiculous, I think. And then it was really difficult for the people in admin, because, I mean, they were at home. They have not collaborated before, and we were really anxious how we get the payroll right for the first time when nobody was in the office. So there was lots of pressure. And for me, it was, I was very confident and I trusted them that they manage it. But the most important thing was to be there and to be open to being talked to, because lots of people felt a lot of insecurity, and they were, I think, quite happy that I, coming from Coca-Cola, obviously had a lot of experience working online. So I said them, I told them there will be a lot of crap in the beginning, but we get that sorted, and I got them through this. That was not too bad, but it took some time to get there. And then I noticed that I had to take calls with my direct reports quite frequently to talk to them, not only about work, but other things, because for everyone, the situation at home was different, and not for everybody it was really perfectly able to work from home. Because when you and you see it in the news now, when they're awake, when they're small, what's the point? I mean, Tatjana, you probably know that it's not always easy with children. So
that's right.
You have to shuffle that.
Yeah, I would add to that. Go ahead.
No, just add.
No, I would just add to that. I was speaking to an HR leader the other day, and he said, "What do you think about this capability of working from home? And we're all doing well, aren't we?" And I said, "Well, it's the mere trial to work from home, but this is not a conscious choice a lot of people have made. So their surroundings, their ecosystem is just not set up." And there was even one statement where somebody's child walked through the camera and obviously was looking for their mom or dad. And the statement from the employer was, "Well, would you please focus? We are running a business meeting here." Yeah, and you feel like, okay, great, I understand, but do you understand, right? And that's, I mean, it's a new normal. This is not a conscious choice. I've not chosen to be working from home, setting myself up, closing the door, doing all the things we do when we say, yes, we will have a home office, right? But in this moment, the expectation just was, I only see your professional piece, the rest I don't care. And that was very obvious. So obviously this is when my alarm bells go, where I think like, where do you see the human, right? And if I'm seeing this now, and we come back to the normal, whatever the new normal is going to look like, this person will remember, right? But you, who said it, will forget. So what does that do to the relationship, and how can you handle it? And HR is trying to intervene and trying to manage, but obviously we see that nobody is kind of really safe from that perception of there is a business person and there's a private person, and no, I don't want to see both parts. So you really try to separate, and that's hard. I think that's hard to manage.
I read a quite nice quote about this. As I think it went like, adversity is not building character, but it reveals the true character, and it reveals this crisis reveals the true culture of every organization. I mean, there's lots of organizations having values and all that stuff hanging in posters in the rooms and things. And now when they see we are employee centric, now you see what it really means. And a lot of organizations, I think, fail, because what's the point when you have a child running through the video? What's the problem with this? I mean, Habeck was on television, the leader of the Green Party, and his son came in, obviously wanted to pick something, and he was only in shorts and no shirt, and things happen like that. What's the point? I mean,
absolutely.
That's really also my experience. Thank you.
Yeah, and give me one last sentence. And
of course.
This is something I want to connect to the results of the poll we did. You can see that people just feel not really sufficient. That's not sufficient what they're doing. That you don't set yourself borders because you think you never have enough time. You don't have enough time for your child. You don't have enough time for your husband. You don't have enough time for work. And that leads to lots of stress. And that's why people become so borderless and have the feeling they have to work from, let's say, 7 in the morning until being available at 10 at night, and still feel they haven't done enough. And this I think has to stop.
Emma, please add to that. I think you had a valid point.
Yeah, just to
well.
say, I mean, this is really my, again from the outside, being outside of the system, so to speak. It's and having lived in community and with people in different nationalities and all the rest of it, it's rather shocking to see the lack of care of the human being, and that these memories are going to be etched very deep. When you're stressed and you're feeling as we are now, you get two responses. One, you get the response which is we care for one another, and we see tremendous amount of care, self-organizing and all the rest of it, which we can do as human beings naturally, as we've seen really clearly, quickly. We've already look how quickly you put this on, right? And then the other side of it is that we will also remember these memories of when things didn't go well. And I think we're in for a little bit of a shock, and that's why working with some sort of agility in mind as a leader is so important. Not agile, not a set of processes, but the ability to have a flexible, inspect and adapt relentlessly is so important, because it allows you to stay connected to your workforce. And so what I've seen is that there's been an exponential growth in actually agility in the organizations I'm working with, because they were sort of planning it. But now that the leader's partly out the way, because actually he's too busy, they can actually just get on and do it, right? Because they actually know what to do, right? That we are human beings, and we have been able to relate for quite a long time by ourselves. We are naturally set up for it. How is it that you can go on Facebook now and go to pretty much any neighborhood, probably in the Netherlands, and find somebody that will buy your veg for you, right? But we can't do that when it's in normal time, so to speak. So I think it's a very exciting time as well. That there's a great possibility where it can go either way, of course, but there's also this possibility that we can awaken to this, that actually now our employees know exactly what the picture is, right?
Right.
I get there's the financial overhead, and that's always a part of the problem here. When I was in the monastery, yeah, there was not that. I was a beggar. I didn't handle money for 15 years, so I never had to worry about that. I gave all my work away for free. I lived by donation during that time, and I and I got everything actually. My whole livelihood, my whole body was on that.
Right.
So generosity, kindness goes a long way. And this is the time to do it. This is the time to put it in and step up. And it's really nice to hear what Judith and Alex and Tatiana are saying, and maybe some of your others also thinking in this way. This is really the time to reach out with the open hand.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think maybe that's HR's role as well, to really instill those skills, right? Or these views, generosity, agility, but also care. And then in the end, what you said, right? So the memories are not the bad ones that stay, but rather the good one.
Yes.
Good ones are in the focus.
And this is, just as Judith said, not posters on the wall. This is not the time for all that stuff. This is the time to do it really one-to-one, one to your small group, And if it's not been developed, if you're struggling it within yourself, is to find somehow the support around you to be able to start to explore that.
Very good points. And I think before we get to the final question, and also then take the questions of the audience or at the thoughts as well, we have a poll which could be quite interesting to answer, because Judith just said it before, and we also saw it in the poll before, that setting boundaries is a difficult question right now, or a difficult task to do. We have a question for you. We actually want to know, are you working longer hours or less than before this pandemic? And do you feel you are more or less productive? I'm gonna relaunch this poll. Now it's actually should be on, so you can hopefully see it and give your answers, so we have a little bit of a view on a reality check, so to say, live. Everyone can see it, and it's growing. All right. 12. Good. So interesting. We have about 80% answered. And what we can see is that number one is I'm working longer and I'm more productive. That's good to see. So we have 44%. Working longer and less productive, second spot. Working less and more productive, third, and only a few are actually working less and the less productive. So that's really an interesting thought. Maybe we can take this, and connect this with a question actually, which is, are you defining right now, looking also at this and also for the future, things might not fall back to normal that quickly. Are you kind of redefining the way you as an HR unit are supporting your organization? And if so, what are some ideas you could share or some plans?
I guess it's very interesting, isn't it? The poll that actually we're working much more, and we feel much more efficient. What does that actually say about the way that the possibilities of how we might work in the future?
Good point.
Yeah, but this is what people perceive as, not when you look at it from an outside, that you see the same. I mean, I'm one of the few working less and less productive, I think. So,
but that's also the beauty of the time that you've got available as well.
Yeah.
So
I think it's an interesting result. I'm surprised, but in a good way. I'm surprised in a good way, because I will say I do work longer, but I also, and maybe that's the trick, I work on things that matter to me more than before.
Yeah.
So it's more about the quality of time, how I spend it, rather than the quantity. So maybe that's coming in there. That would be really interesting. So please, people, do feel free, if you want to unmute yourself and also share in a few moments.
That's really beautiful, Tatiana, because what you're talking about is that people are on purpose. Actually, people are they're actually doing things that are purposeful. Yeah, and the more that we do purposeful stuff, the more efficient we become. because we have a certain passion to it. I get all the other stuff, the stress, and I get the human side of it. I'm just bracketing that out the way for the minute. But just, this is interesting, isn't it? That we're choosing to do things that are really important to us, so we can do it. People are repurposing, they're manufacturing from this, that, the other. Dyson created a ventilator in 20 days or whatever. What could we do? What could we do, with this capacity that we're seeing right now? I don't mean like we've got to put ourselves all under stress to get it. I mean, creativity as a process does happen through stress. It happens through chaos. Usually that's where creativity comes from, within constraints. But the thing is how to shift that into more of the complex realm, where we can actually start to get to a sense of how we can respond to the system and allow these new practices to emerge, rather than keep stifling them back and saying, well, you've got to practice this way or that way or the other. Because I think we've all got a sense actually in HR, that we actually do know what to do, but we're stifled again by all these systems in places. We don't actually allow it out. And you said it both said it, that the sense of purpose and having that, will make that, and you can make a choice about whether you choose to be, you're doing less during this time or more during this time, but it's still on purpose.
You're right. I love that. I think my only question would be, will organizations allow that purpose? I know
God, don't ask me that question. I haven't got a clue.
Right.
I haven't got a clue.
We need a glass of wine for this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Several,
absolutely.
I'm afraid. But I think if you remember, Google long time ago allowed 20% of your time work on something that you're passionate about, condition, it has to be marketable eventually. Google dropped that, right? What I've learned, I'm not sure if you guys know the story, The Richest Man in Babylon. It's a whole old saga. It's more about financial management and prosperity and how people can gain wealth and what wealth means. But the big learning that I've taken from there, and that I would also recommend to HR folks to think about, is putting some constraints on you. In that parable, it talks about living under your abilities in terms of financial resources. So it limits you and says, take X% away to, live on your lifestyle, whatever that is, like 70%. If there is something that you owe to somebody, it's like paying back debt or something, then that's like 20%, and 10% is for you. That's kind of your pleasure pocket or whatever you want to call it. And nobody's forcing you to do this, but it's like a self-imposed challenge or boundaries. And I've been doing this with my teams and also with my leadership teams a lot, to say, yes, we have all the money of the world and amazing people and everything. And, we could work 80 hours a week, which we have been doing for a while, but let's assume we can't. Let's assume we can only work with X amount of people. Let's assume I'm going to put these 5 people away and put them on an internal project, which is dear to their heart. It's going to help us in the long run. We just have limitations. It's scarcity. I'm sorry. I can't give you this recruiter. Live with it. Go figure yourself. So interestingly, as you say, Amma, all of a sudden creativity pops up. People start to find ideas where they were never, ever possible. I launched a whole learning platform, not because I had the capacity or the knowledge how to do it. I went to my head of engineering and I said, you're a coder, right? Yes. Well, code this bloody thing. I mean, hopefully. What is this, right? And I will say he did an amazing job. But what he also did is he realized, because he could contribute, that I got more cherishing for the HR work. But secondly, I could understand him and his demands better. So all of a sudden, we created so many fans around this whole thing. I had volunteer contributors from the entire organization, designing the questions, designing career paths, going on fairs and seeking out people for recruiting. And I was like, okay, that's kind of cool. I can lean back and take all the credit when we hire those amazing folks. No, kidding. But that's, I think, the scarcity piece. I would recommend to take that into the future. I think that's something that we should really try, rather than go back to, okay, now let's spend all the money we haven't spent so far, or let's all work from home and save some office space rent. If that's reasonable, I've had those conversations. Yeah. And I would argue, yes, if you then obviously take all the consequences with it, which includes a completely different leadership and management style, it requires a lot of other things too. And how do you keep your culture intact? But interesting, I think the scarcity piece, that's my big takeaway. I think it's something worth exploring.
Alex, can I?
Cool.
I just wanted to hear Alex's opinion on how he is seeing that, also with the connected to the work time, and how is that at Blinkist actually right now, and how are you perceiving people setting themselves boundaries, and how do you take that for for the future? Have you thought about adapting things? You're on mute, I think, Alex.
Sorry.
You should be good.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you hear me? Sorry, it was switching
Yes.
back and forth. I mean, one thing we say, it's a responsibility of everyone to, shuffle the energy and make sure that they take the time off. Obviously, everyone is very engaged at the moment because they want to make sure the business is going to go on, that our product can move on. We've been here for a while, but it's still growing. So keeping that reminder up, I think is very important. We also offer sessions. I was going to talk about it also later. Is everyone from the people team said, okay, what skills do I have? We have mediators, we have coaches, we have this, we have people that have worked in different fields as volunteers, and say, okay, let's get all of the skills out and try to support people. So for those who struggle, we are trying to have an offering. And we're trying to set boundaries by also sending people home, in the sense of, not that I go through the list, but when we're in meetings, especially in our team, we say to each other, okay, you've been here for 10 hours. I don't want to see you for the rest of the evening. To also just remind ourselves that, we also need to keep sane in all of this. And I think what I'm observing, and that goes a bit also into point of scarcity or the observations I'm making, nobody has a blueprint for this situation. Yeah. So, what we tell people is like, yes, it's okay. And, we all don't know. So we have to try things and try what is best for you. But if you feel like you're struggling, don't know how, this is what we're here for. On an HR side, I think this is a huge opportunity because it gives you kind of permission to try things, because nobody knows if that's going to work because we've never been in a situation. That might be very cheeky startup feeling, but I'm certainly using that and saying, okay, we don't know, let's just do it, let's just try and fail fast. And I think it gives also opportunities to explore fields that before we felt we couldn't, or we were not supposed to, or it was not allowed. And I think that's very interesting. And so I think it's also exploring boundaries on an organizational, personal level, but also making sure that we always check in with ourselves regularly and make sure that we are still where we need to be. And maybe just if I can add a small anecdote from a colleague, she works remotely all the time. She has 2 kids, so she tried to arrange her day. Morning work, afternoon kids, and we had a very interesting meeting and workshop, and she's like, I really want to be in it, but I have the kids. And I was like, who cares? She was like, no, that's going to be annoying. I was like, do you think that is? Let's just try it. It's like, I don't know, maybe it's not going to disturb. And we did it, and her toddler was sick, and he was cuddly, and at some point he needed something, and it worked completely fine. It was not disturbing. And, in the end, she said it was amazing to understand that I get permission from all of you to just be a mother and an expert at the same time. And I'm sorry. And I said, stop confusing. It's fine. It was actually, I felt the meeting was much more quiet and calm than it usually was, because she had a sick toddler. So you were not going to be assertive and, and intense. So yeah. I think just also making sure that we do not miss those moments and learn from them. And I think allowing yourself and giving yourself permission to, set boundaries, but also to explore boundaries is very important.
Good point. And with that, actually, I want to open up to the audience. We will have 5 minutes for Q&A. Then we're going to have a little break, and then we're going to look into the real tools that HR is using now in terms of learning and development to really support people now through this time. I don't know if you have to unmute people or if people can raise their hand. How are we going to do this, Tatjana?
Let me see. Normally, everybody should be able to just unmute yourself, but if you cannot, I'm happy to put you all on voice.
So you can either just ask a question directly or put it in the chat, and then the experts are gonna give you their views, opinions, and maybe an answer. And of course, everyone is more than welcome to contribute to also answering. But we do have only around 5 minutes.
I have one, Sari here. One question about, you were mentioning about over communicating, and that's really that how do we communicate now that we are working virtually? How do we keep the communication? How do we make the people feel to be that we are there for them, we are present, and maybe really over communicating, and then the balance between them showing caring and then not micromanaging, or not making the feeling of micromanaging. Because we want to care, we want to be there, but we don't want to have the feeling of micromanaging.
Thank you.
My first answer would be ask the people what they need and just listen first, because I think most of the time we tend to over communicate. We want to be very transparent and we want to explain everything, and then we tend to getting into this managing everything. So I'd rather start with small talk and then ask people what they really need to do their work, to what they need from me, what kind of support they need, and then just listen first. And then I think most of the people you get to some point where it feels comfortable, and then it is. So that is how I handle those situations, because I like speaking a lot, and that's why I force myself to listen a bit more. I think Tatjana knows what I'm talking about.
I do. I have full empathy. But I would add to that. I think it's not just about how we see it, because yes, we are considered the caretakers, right? So we always have an open ear and an open door, and everybody can come to us, yada, 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 which is true. But still, we also have to be able to offload our pressure and our trash at times and put it in the place where it belongs. So I think it's really about buddying up and enabling everybody else to be similar, at least open and vulnerable enough to try. So this is where I would go to the front line, meaning the team leaders, the managers, people who have an influence as project leaders, as scrum masters, whoever has a level of authority, whether, I don't want it to sound negative, but more the person that is being listened to for a reason, like a tribe lead, or no matter what kind of organizational model you have. And you also have those influencers that are rather known, but not in official roles, right? You have your classic whisperers and influencers and ambassadors out there, and you usually know exactly who they are. So gain their trust and leverage their ability to connect with people so that you can spread the load of, engaging, and then you can set up rules of engagement. My expectation would be everybody knows what the other person really needs in the moment, because I've spent time enough to know who they are. Now, obviously, I cannot know it for thousands of people or hundreds or whatever the size, but if we spread and everybody knows a little, then I would argue that should be a huge advantage towards what it is today. So as you say, Judith, then you will know, do I now call, or do I just leave them in peace? Will they come back? Or do I get worried if I don't hear from them for 2 days straight? But that's something we cannot police, and we shouldn't. I think we should just be okay to spread it, give some guidance how to, but then give the trust, the opportunity to spread, and then hopefully everybody's taken care of. I know that's very idealistic, but I don't give up on idealism. So that's certainly one of my takes. I would say we have to enable it, we have to live it, we have to show it, of course. I need to know all of my board, all of my first two leadership levels inside out. I need to give them that trust in my team as well. But once that is there, let them do it as well and encourage them. And hopefully that spreads and gives a bit of more space for us as well.
Great one. One last question before we wrap up for a quick break.
Maybe I can make a question. Hi, I'm Ornella Harris from Portugal. My question for you would be how you try to communicate with introverts and extroverts in the meetings.
Good question.
It's a really good one. But
it's difficult because extroverts always talk so much, and introverts don't. As you can see, hello, Tatjana. I think
Well, you can tell what our preference is. Yeah.
I would probably try to make an agenda and ask everyone to speak up. I mean, when people don't want to speak and they don't want, then they don't. But ask them actively, and then most even introverts start talking. But when you leave them out, then only the likes, like me, or will talk, because extroverts find it boring when they are not able to talk. So
that's a very good
what I try
question.
to do, I ask questions.
My friend has developed a thing called the meeting spicer, which is a way of bringing spice to meetings. So it's a pack of cards that literally, yeah, you bring, it's a board game now, a remote board game as well, where you can actually use different ways of meeting together. And so rather than having the same standard format and that's why play is also so important, because there's different ways of it being expressed. I was at an agile meeting once and the whole thing was done in silence. All the feedback, and there was a group of 150 of us, or 100 of us, and and we had to go walk around the room and we had to write it down and lift up a thing, and it was all, but we got a lot of feedback. I mean, you know, the post-it. So there's, I think, finding different ways to interact in meetings and to cut all the airtime out. Do you know what I mean? All the airspace. And I'm told that in terms of introverts, this is a fantastic time for them because actually they're at home, and interestingly, it's a better way of more comfortable, and so communication is actually much more easier. Just like we're all in individual rooms, I'm in my own room, I feel comfortable. Yeah, maybe then I can share more. So it's a way of also trying to use that situation to actually create the bonding, that actually will last after this period of time.
I think
I would
also,
just,
sorry.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
I just wanted to say, also try to use different formats. I think we often try to
different formats
meeting, and then we obviously we cannot have 160 people and ask everyone what they're doing. We have the introverts like me. I'm +1 on that of the talking. So the question is, we just use it as an information meeting, and yes, you can have questions, but it's more like one-way communication. We have a second meeting, which is called What's on Your Mind, where you can hand in questions beforehand. You can, put them into a tool, which you don't have to expose yourself, because sometimes it's not even about introversion, extroversion. Sometimes I don't want to be exposed, or I have something controversial. So we try to make sure that everybody gets a voice, but it's a different format. And then we focus a lot on also the one-on-ones, and also what you said, Tatjana. That's what we're trying to do at the moment. We check in with all of the leads. What does your team need? Are you asking them? Can I help you get and it's much easier to get the extroverts in a smaller setting. So we're making sure that they're still asking the same questions, not all of them obviously, but the fundamental questions in their teams, where usually even introverts feel comfortable to either speaking up or then going back to the lead or peers and say, this is what I need. So try to, again, it's not too much, but try to find ways that they can be included, and can include themselves, right? Without asking everyone, because that's what introverts don't like. It's like, don't ask me and expose me because I want to do it myself. So you need to offer platforms for that.
That's a good one. So basically, if I can summarize, on the one hand, do ask for proactive involvement, not forcing them, but maybe, just asking, because as you said, people might not be comfortable with that. Using tools, maybe like the meeting spicer, and to really use the airtime that's out there, and then also to maybe use different formats and split meetings into smaller chunks, so that people, especially of any sorts, extrovert, introverts, and what is all in there between, since we know it's mostly not really black and white. Great. So thanks so much for that first panel and for the questions for you. We will do a 4-5 minute break. Let's be very German about this now, because time is flying. So I'm going to get myself a water. Of course, feel free to do whatever you want in those 5 minutes, chit chat with each other. And then we continue back in 5 minutes.
Yes, thank you. So point 35, please be back. And looking forward to the next part. This is very German. Everybody's like on time. Amazing.
2 minutes early.
Love it. I tell you. But you know, I worked with one startup once, and every time you were late, you would have to do 10 squats or burpees or any of that mess in front of the others. So, you know, we started the meeting and the other had to, you know, exercise on the floor. So I swore, never will I be late in that organization.
Whatever
I was
helps.
lucky. Oh, I tell you, that's been crazy. All right, so people are coming back on. That's amazing. Take your time. You have gone into poll 3. Can you kick it off, Daniel, or shall I?
Yeah. If I click stop results. Oh no, wait, sorry.
Then you go up on the drop down.
Yeah. Okay, sure. Cool. So as people come in, I guess we can do that. I mean, I'll give hand over to you anyways, but I think maybe we can start the poll already, and then as people
Yes, go
come
ahead.
in, they can...
Kick off the poll. We'll have another one coming. It's super easy, and then we might have a 4th one. So please do contribute. That gives us a good clue as to where we are. Let's see. Do we have everybody? How does this look screen-wise?
We don't really know from
some people are coming back. We'll give it 1 more minute, so we don't want it to be overly precise.
I'm going to launch the poll because the next panel will be about more on the L&D, learning and development side of things.
Yes, go ahead.
So we have the first question, which is your L&D infrastructure fit for the new work reality, like remote working? We have 3 answer options: yes, totally, so, or hell no. And you are invited to answer this question. We got 18 people. Maybe we get 18 answers. That would be great.
Yeah, we had 70% participation already, so that's great. So I will assume a lot of people are back. Thank you so much for staying with us. Quick check on time. Officially, I think we invited you until 6 p.m. I will say we would love to give everybody a voice and space. So we have this space, this Zoom conference, until 6:30. So if you're able to stay on, please feel free. If you have to drop out, we will not take it as a direct feedback. Maybe we should, but then please let us know what didn't work too well. But again, the offer really is until 6:30, so we can give all these amazing people an hour in total, and then we'll wrap up. So 6:30, we should be finished. If that works for everybody, can I have some signs? Can I have some nodding, some thumbs? Whoever it doesn't work, as I said, totally fine. Do drop out and feel free to then look at the recording later. We don't want to miss any of the comments, any on the insights. Thank you also for the thumbs up on the screen. That's great. Okay, so while we're waiting for the poll, you can still contribute. I'd like to introduce the people that are on this panel. How to stay sane through HR. So it's really about the wider context. It's learning and development at large. How do we keep our people connected, and how do we make sure that they do the right things, basically, through our support? Vanessa has already been introduced. If you can wave and just say hi once more. There she is. Perfect. We'll continue to have Alex, because Alex has the privilege of sitting on both sides of the fence. One being in HR, secondly leading L&D and doing some amazing stuff there. Then we have Sari. If you can wave, there she is. Sari joins us from Finland today. She's with an amazing progressive company called VTT, so you can say a few words about that later. And Sari is leading the people organization and has 2 great passions. One is enabling the team leaders and those who are really on the front line to do the right things. The other one is about keeping the corporate culture intact. So the question really is, how is what we pray and preach at the top trickling down to the entire organization and stays what it was intended to be, or better? So Sari is going to give us some insights there of the type of work she's doing and what kind of support she's finding around her organization to do this. And then last but not least, we'll also have Daniel say a few words. He's the lucky one, having an open door, bypassing every assistant and secretary to talk to the amazing decision makers on the L&D space with a lot of companies. So let's see who's really real about this new stuff and who's just pretending and sticking with I don't know, paper cards and works council arrangements and all the mess. Yeah, so really excited and thrilled to have you. Prepared a number of questions. Before we go there, let me check on the poll. Is your L&D infrastructure fit for the new work reality? And we are having so being the lead response, 62%. Yes, totally 23. Okay, at least that's a quarter, so that's not bad. Hell no, we'd love to learn more on this. So if you want to out yourself who's having that trouble, we'd love to know and see if we can do something about it. But on the so front, I think that was pretty much expected, if not witnessed, over the last days and weeks. So let's jump into this right away. How are you dealing with the situation and the restructuring the entire learning and development portfolio? What's working, what's not? Give it a go. Vanessa, would you mind if we start with you?
Of course not, thank you. Actually, yes, it hit us hard, I have to say. I mean, Philip Morris is a tanker. We have more than employees. We were just about to launch our development plan for this year when it was said that we were all going into home office. So the first step we did was going back, not communicating anything, and thinking about what could we do with whatever we set up now, because obviously in-presence training wasn't there anymore. Most of the other development opportunities weren't given anymore. And what we've done is like taken the chance. And honestly, I was fighting against a lot of people in the past saying, you can't do that virtually, you can't do that, and you can't do that. Which now, and what Judith said earlier, we've moved a long way within shortest time, and digitalization came overnight. And that is what I'm super happy about, because we managed to get a lot of stuff on the street, which we have never thought before would be possible virtually, not at all. Connecting people, because we have a mega field force where we were always struggling about how do we get them together, how do we get them developed, what can we do. With having everything virtually, we're just connecting people now and building networks, which we haven't had the chance before because everyone told us it wasn't possible. And that is the stuff which I'm one side really enjoying, the other side it gave me a lot of pain and still gives me a lot of pain to make sure what can we do. And I mean, we had that earlier. We also shifted massively from the types like project management training to really focusing on the people side. So stress management, mental health, having these small things in between, because I mean, what I myself realize is you're sitting in the home office and I'm sitting here not alone, luckily. But still this chit chats in between with your colleagues, this is completely gone because you're rushing from one meeting to the other and the things in between are not there anymore. And this is where we try a lot and focus a lot more on how can we give employees the chance to get back to that normality in a way, still sitting at home and still being virtual. And that
Thank you for that insight. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
That is what I liked about you, Alex, earlier. I mean, I have that. We have an 8-year-old at home. And the first week I was super stressed myself, honestly, to keep her away from everything. Meanwhile, I don't care. I mean, if she's coming in, she's coming in. Why not? This is me. This is how I'm working. She's part of my family, and this is how we deal with our employees as well. I mean, I
could have brought her.
Yeah, no, it's a good thing. I mean, I know whole families which I've never had known before. And I've been working with people for quite a while.
What, you have kids?
It's supernatural, and everyone is super relaxed about it because you don't have that pressure of, okay, I have to keep everything away and I have to stay safe and clear in a way.
Thanks, Vanessa. Great to hear. So what have you seen? Alex, if you can share a few words, you also had some epiphany, I think, right? On the L&D front. So how is it going?
I have a lot, actually. I mean, we're on the other scale of Philip Morris. You know, we're not classic, what you would know, you have a training catalog and then a portfolio, etc. The truth is also, we're still also building that function. So we had learning and development. It was more like steered on the individual. And we only started this year also really to look at, you know, what is the strategy? How can we look at it as an organization? But in a practical way, we're just running NVC workshops with the whole organization. So everyone is going to an NVC workshop, which for those who know NVC, it's about communication, it's about you trying different formats, and we got stopped in the middle. And the first reaction was, okay, we can't do them at the office. Let's think what we can do with it. And then we talked also to the trainer who was not used to do the NVC workshops. And we found a solution to do the part that is easy to implement remote, to go on with it and not just stop the whole project, but also to realize what are the things that we feel it's better for us to be in the space and then do it later. So we're trying to not look at or situation, but to create and situations. How can we do one thing and still do it? That is one example.
Great one.
So it has changed in a way, and also it will probably change in the future, I think, because we're seeing topics emerging through some data that we just entered and got on the fly and said, okay, we need to have some data on it, which is going to help us also shape, and that data is mainly around also mental health and stress management, which everybody always says we need something. When you ask them, they go like, oh, we don't know what we need. Now it becomes very apparent because people reflect on themselves and say, okay, this is actually what I need. And so we're getting a lot of indicators that will help us also shape our strategy. And what Vanessa said, how can we ensure that there's still platforms for exchange? How can we also use the resources we have? We don't have large budgets. That's imminent in our industry. So we're just asking around, and the Agile coach, which was doing just Agile coaching for the engineering teams, just came in and just gave a workshop to the whole people team on how to use Miro, which is a whiteboard solution, so we can go on with retros. And and everybody's like, oh, that's easy. That's why didn't we think about it before? And we have people working remotely, and I think people just realize how much you actually can do remote without having to be an engineer or a developer. But there's so many tools out there, luckily, which we're discovering, which I love. I love tech and gadgets and bringing in stuff. And then you realize there's so many resources you haven't used in the organization. And we always do that, but this is becoming even more prominent, to use what we already have. And people love to share, our Agile coach is just like, I'm so happy to also work with different teams, because I'm not used to it. I usually have tribes and squads, and having a people team working it is a complete new experience. So he's learning through passing on his expertise to just a different audience group. And I think that's just amazing.
That's certainly super exciting to hear. Sari, how is it on your end?
It's really great to hear. And actually, we had really a sort of ready-made training portfolio, all the dates set for the spring and summer, and sort of all the learning events they started, of course, at the beginning of the year. And then the first reaction in March was like, well, let's postpone them until May or June. Then a little bit later, no, until autumn, no, 2021. And then you realize, no, that's not the solution. I mean, it's not really that let's postpone them. Let's think how we can actually run them, and what can we run, and what is needed to be run. So we really wanted to keep the business ongoing as well as possible, or as normal as possible, of course, even in this situation. So what were the priorities on learning and development? Well, we are a project organization, so project management. We really need to focus on customer or customer relationships. So it's customer excellence. We want to develop our leaders. We just had a huge reorganization at the end of last year, where we made the research teams smaller. So we have like 50 new team leaders, and we had a whole program sort of planned for them to support them in their sort of new role as a team leader. So they need that support, and they need that support even more at the moment. So we started sort of planning and working with the partners, but also in-house, that what can we do now and not postpone. And we actually also in our learning and development team started, but actually now I think it's almost 40 people now throughout the organization. We trained our people on sort of building online learning modules. Mm-hmm. So how to do it technical and what is a good pedagogical way of doing online modules. So we are actually doing them now a bit also in-house, and people cool. Are really, really excited.
That's fun as well.
And it's fun as well. Actually, one of our recruitment coordinators, because she was part of the training yesterday, and she said, well, yes, I will make the best ever recruitment online module for our team leaders.
That's great. Wow. So she's expanding her skills. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. And then of course we have also started to look and started actually roll out totally new sort of learning events for this particular situation. How to lead teams virtually, how to lead teams virtually in sort of tough times, in challenging times, how to lead the emotions, how to lead the insecurity when you are not really with the person, how to listen and see the emotions through the camera. I mean, yes, you can see body language, but not totally in the same way as when you are meeting physically. So also building and starting those kind of modules, and the first training session will be next week, and it went full like in a couple of minutes. Exactly. So we can really see that there is a need for that.
That's great.
But I have to say that in our organization, and luckily we have had this sort of experiment mindset already before, because we have with the Coach Hub, virtual coaching, but also we have done virtual psychotherapy or virtual.
Very advanced.
We have offered to our employees virtual psychologist in stress, in burnouts, in love boat is sinking, so when they have problems at home. So we have actually offered that already virtually for almost 2 years. So people are actually sort of accustomed that it's okay to work virtually, even in sort of tough or challenging topics.
That's great, because I meant to ask how you're making your business case for keeping and actually innovating, and extending even learning and development offerings. So it looks like Sari is all over it. What I'd really love to hear, Daniel, you have seen so many companies, and we've had some side chats as well, where you ranged from overjoyed to massive frustration from what you've been hearing. So give us a few
Still
words.
Smiling.
Yes,
Still smiling.
Very good.
Always smiling.
The reality
Actually, the
front.
reality, and I think I loved what all of you said, Vanessa, Sari, and Alex, and just to also point out my reality and summarize what you said, because there are some really important points. On the one hand, what Vanessa said is like, yes, project management might be important, and for example, in Sadi's organization, it's now very important. In another organization, it's a nice to have. So then it's something really to think like, what is actually something that is really urgent right now? And really sometimes to just, let's skip the nice to have, right? And that's also, you mentioned coaching, what we do. I don't want to give a promotion pitch, but it doesn't matter if you do it through internal coaching or what we do or whatever. Just this right now, development moves from nice to have to actually effective short-term support as well. I'm not saying that you shouldn't think long-term as well, but this should be a priority right now. And I think trying different formats to do that, to deliver that, is needed by default, because we are all virtual. But what Alex said is not only offering but seeing what we can do, and also taking the data from your people, because it's so hard when the classic development programs that you do from a strategic long-term perspective are not there anymore, no budgets, they're not working, then you need to find out what it is that in the short and midterm is now important to your people, and to really, with pulse checks, surveys, focus groups, to really find out what the hot topics are right now, and not just L&D, because I love what you said, Sadi, about having, starting to do courses yourself, but a big but, and I did a great podcast. I'm launching a podcast actually soon with 2 L&D experts who consult the biggest companies in the world. And they just said, stop doing the 25th guide on staying physically healthy and on how to use Microsoft Teams. Like, people should know that by now, right? Yeah. This is not what L&D, what you should focus your resources, money, and especially time of your people on right now. Instead, yes, really thinking about, what are these challenges? Not only just okay leadership, but what is it? Is it maybe my emotional regulation that I have to take care of? My conflict management remotely? All of these things, to really consider that, taking into the feedback first into account, and not duplicate content that's already out there or that someone else might do much better or faster or easier, and really focusing on the core that your people need right now. And not only focusing on leadership, I think, is very important, but to now use that time to democratize actually learning, because it's crucial for engagement, even in face-to-face times, but now even more so.
Yeah. Thank you. So clearly, I mean, what we've seen is a lot of companies staying on track. As you said, there is, digitization overnight, Vanessa, I feel for you. Yeah. But clearly there is an opportunity. For a lot of people, it's stressful and it's a new world, new reality, but on the other hand, it is an amazing opportunity, right? And I remember there was a poll on LinkedIn, who's in charge of digitization in your company? And it says all the C titles, and then it says the famous C, pandemic, as option number D. And everybody's like, well, of course, that's the one which is currently driving it. But in order to sustain it, I think, it's very encouraging to hear that, yes, there are companies who screw it up and who put a pause on everything. We've seen it as well, Daniel, right? So people say like, yeah, it's a nice to have. Well, define nice to have if this is the backbone of what you're really doing day in, day out, like project management. Right? Yeah. Business continuity is a big one, but also things like leadership development. Yeah. And then everybody cries when I have no succession, and all of a sudden my leader leaves, and then I have a huge gap. And we're like, oh, yeah, maybe we should have focused on that. So with all that in mind, how do you make sure you identify the right target groups right now? So what do you really reach out to them with? And what are the most pressing topics that you are addressing? Are you seeing something different than before? Can you elaborate on that? I'd really love to hear from your practical experience.
Actually, I've just come off a call earlier today, coming back to the stress management and mental health. Because we realized, we just recently have done a survey with our employees on seeing how they are coping with everything. And also depending on what environment are they in at the moment. Are they living with family, with small kids, with bigger kids? Are they staying alone, which was our basically most hidden target group. And it revealed that this is the ones struggling most with the effect of staying alone. Yes, we all have our overtime meanwhile, and most of people are working longer hours, but still it is not the same than having social contacts face to face. And this is also why we see that there is a need to do something. But on the other side, we do see that especially these stress management trainings, if they're for leaders, people tend to enroll in themselves, because then I can kind of pretend it's for my employees. If they're for themselves, we constantly run into the issue of not having maybe enough people enrolling, though we know from also the surveys that it is needed. And this is something where we now start also doing anonymous calls. So we set up these trainings and people can dial in anonymously. And we will set up a helpline with an external company. So because we said, like, we have super good results and people feel super valued, and this is the good thing about being in our organization and in our field of consumer goods, definitely. But on the other side, there is a margin of people who don't feel that good, and if it's only one person, we have to take care of it. And this is where we really want to focus going further, to make sure, as you said, to reach these people, because this is the people we need to reach now. The people who are vocal, who are outgoing, I'm honestly not that worried about. I'm quite frankly getting the feedback of people what they need and what they don't need. But the people who are not speaking up now is the people we need to reach now, and we need to also focus on that we're not losing them from an also emotional perspective. And this is something we really want to focus on more going further, because I mean we're going into week 8 now of having home office, and this is something we need to make sure.
Yeah. I can just add. Yeah. Oh yeah, sorry, go on.
No, go ahead. Yeah.
I'm just wanting to add on, again, like a little bit best practice, what I'm seeing with so many organizations. I think there's 2 things, like what Vanessa said, like identifying what people need, what they are most struggling with, but also understanding who they are, what is their situation, right? Because I can focus all my time on writing how to manage it with my family if 80% of my staff actually don't have kids yet, right? So to really focusing on what do I need to help people with, and then who. And I always wanted, because that's also our vision, is to democratize access to coaching and really personal development, the most effective person, democratization. And when you think about that, I think it's 2 people that are really important in this, besides some specific target group like HR, who's under pressure now, IT, right? There's specific roles that are very much under pressure right now, who need a lot of support to drive the continuity from a people perspective. But we talk a lot about leaders, and I think right now, for especially middle management is important, because they get all the pressure and uncertainty from the top, need to really be able to coach their people in the lower management, so they can, also further do that with their people. But it's the informal influencers. The informal influencers, and Tatjana said before, yeah, we all know them. The bigger the organization gets, the more difficult it is to understand what these informal influencers are. And I know one company, I can share a blog with you later, Innovisor, maybe you know them. They do amazing network analysis. And I really got into this topic for a long time now, for several weeks. And I find it so amazing, because the informal influencers are not necessarily the vocal ones and always extroverted ones. Very much right now, it's actually the more introverted ones that really hold their people together and are very valued. It could be both sides, but really to maybe run a network analysis, maybe ask your teams who they trust most when it's also not crisis. There's different ways of how to go about that, also for free, because the reach that informal influencers have is actually 90% of company. 3% of your informal influencers reach 90%. Your leaders, all in all, only reach 50%, right? Most companies are not even aware of that. So I would really say identify your informal influencers and not only focus on your managers. They also need to work, but sometimes it's the manager who's maybe right now putting more stress and more micromanaging on people. An internal influencer could help maybe balance that out. And either way is someone people look up to and ask more for help. I got a request today. It's like, I'm a very senior person, but I'm not a leader, because right now there's also no point in me for being. I'm a senior consultant. But there's people telling me, I want to talk to someone senior, but not management. Can I talk to you? Right? And it's happening all the time in your organization. So supporting these people, so there's multiplier effects.
Okay. Go, Snake, you were before, sorry. I can.
That's actually good point, Daniel. What happened in our case, and linking to what Vanessa said as well, we were focusing a lot on the well-being, stress management, we built up a sort of very comprehensive toolkit for working home, taking care of your well-being, your sleep, your nutrition, your exercise, your ergonomics, and we had all this. And then we actually took and provided all of who wanted couple of apps, meditation apps, and sort of these micro exercise apps. And then suddenly, through informal channels, well, actually it was Yammer, but in the Yammer sort of informal discussions, because we have 2,100 employees, so 2,100 employees, out of which about 300 are still working in the labs, in the pilot plants. So they are working physically out there. And we got the message that, well, this is great. People are working home, safe. You take care of them. We are working out here. We come every day to the labs. We work as teams in the labs with each other, close to each other, especially when you are doing something very sort of, you might work very close to each other in the laboratory. So why aren't you taking care of our well-being? Why aren't you thinking about us? How about our safety?
Yeah.
And that actually then triggered a program for them as well, definitely. But we didn't really think about it. We were just thinking about those who are working home, and it's so hard and so something new. So the focus was there. And we, in a way, forgot, but got the message, definitely. And have been working on that since then. But also, I think you were talking about the target groups and sort of how to reach them and the topics. I would say the other topics, one of the key topics for us as well was onboarding. Because we have still been recruiting. We are still getting new employees in. But we have to think that how do you onboard remotely? How do you build the feeling of belonging? How do you build the sense of sort of you are welcome, but stay home? And that is also something that we have been really now working and making toolkits, and actually that is one thing that we have been building these own online programs as well, so that we can offer sort of on demand sort of things for them. But really virtual onboarding is something that we really have to think about as well.
Yeah. You know what we've done? Our TA team came up with a really cool idea. We are sending out cupcakes to a team who's having a new hire, to invite them to do a virtual coffee chat with the new hire. And
that's nice. Yeah.
And that was also something where, I mean, I didn't know about it. It was a surprise for the whole team as well. And I had a new hire in my team in April. And suddenly there was a postman at my door, said something from Philip Morris here, please. And it was like a quite big package. So I opened it and it had some cupcakes in there. I thought, like, what's going on now? With the message of, here, welcome your new employee and have a meeting tomorrow afternoon. And that is something which we got super good feedback from our employees as well. Super easy, supporting also the local bakery here.
That's win. I'm counting.
I'm just thinking of where I'm getting the next new hire from, because they were actually quite nice.
Well, exactly. There's the business case. It's about the bakery. That's the trick. Right. Gotcha.
No, but this is more things, I think, where what I said earlier, it is getting people together again on a personal level.
Yes.
I had a very similar experience, because we had a team offsite, which obviously happened online for a whole day last week. And our lead all sent us a small box with, I don't know, there were nuts and there was a small bottle of wine then for the end. And it's so interesting how much we appreciate something non-virtual in this all virtuality. And as June, we're talking about also about the recommendation. If you get the chance to send your team even a card, it makes such a big difference, because I had to go to the post office for mine. I had to stand in line and I was like, I did not order anything.
You risked your life.
I risked my life, actually. Yeah. And when I got this box, I'm getting goosebumps now. It just made me feel so seen, which I'm talked to her every day, but it just had such a different quality. And what I'm seeing as well is, and it also reminded me when Daniel talked about, the influencers. It's really funny that this is emerging, because if you are old school and, like me, in the sense of old and influencers, I'm older than I might look, but,
wiser.
in change management, the influencers or not unofficial leaders have always been a target group to look at, because you always know those are going to block your change processes. So this is not new. Right. It's funny that these things are coming up again, and I'm saying this also with having a box or getting a letter, and how of these, and call them old school qualities, just become a different meaning. And I think those are the small things that can make a difference. And as for the larger discussion, how to identify target groups, I thought it was interesting what Vanessa said. I don't have data on it, but it's an observation. The people suffering most are the people in, I'm going to say, single household and extroverted, because they're just not getting the platform anymore, right? And I call it the red button syndrome. While you're talking, everybody leaves, presses the red button because they have the next meeting. And I think I see a lot of insecurity around that.
Right.
I obviously don't know what to do about it right now, but I think, how do we address these topics is really by listening to people. And I mentioned it before, we have regular engagement surveys. So I just, we answered 10 more questions that were about more about well-being, because that's what we heard in the organization. And to how to make a case, I was like, okay, if we go and say we have coaching, but let's say we would need a coaching, platform program. How do I gonna sell that? And so let's put them in there. There was some hesitation to put them in. It's like, oh, what do we do? Can we react to that? I'm like, there's not a question if we can react, we have to react to it, because if we see that half of our workforce is going into a bad direction on a mental stress level, we might come out of this in 2 months of the office, but with half of the people. And so this gives a lot of fuel to actually go back and say we need it. I think one problem we have in L&D is that we're usually very slow in reacting, because we do a lot of planning and we do strategy, we make catalogs, and we heard it, right? We're going to push it to October, oh no, next year. So we usually plan for a whole year, especially in larger organization. I'm probably lucky not to have this large budget and development plan, because I can go at the moment. I think one thing that we need to learn in larger organizations is to react fast, because, while burnout is an issue now, or stress in 2 weeks, there's going to be something else. That's the phases I meant. And by the time we have that running, it's already old. And I think that's a huge challenge, even for us as a small organization. But I imagine, from my experience in larger organization, it's a tank, right? And for everybody that knows how to to drive a boat is, you can steer around, but it's going to take a moment until this thing turns around. And that in that moment is, we lost a lot of people already, in the sense of not addressing their needs. So it's a challenge of keep talking and getting the understanding. That's how I do it. I don't want to run in surveys. So I always ask in every meeting, it's like, let's do a check-in and let me understand, can we do something about it? And if I see
that's amazing.
And if I see 10 people, mentioning something, this is how the stress topic came up. People were not reporting, Alex, I'm stressed, but people were saying, how is it going to be if we're going to be stressed in a week or two? Can we just and after the 10th time I heard burnout, I was like, okay, we need to focus on looking at if that's a problem or just an individual, and react to it, because we're 160 people. If 10% fall out, that's huge. And so I think we need to make sure that every single person in our small cosmos stays, healthy and sane, not only through this, but beyond this.
Beyond this, I think that's very vital. If I can just add, interesting how identities are being questioned right now, right? So we talk introverts, extroverts, but it's also personal preferences, like what's my lifestyle? How do I express myself? Who do I like to be around with? Why? How do I get work done? So what are the channels that I apply to get to where I need to get to, where I think I need to get to? And all of a sudden you're limited in that. And acknowledging that, I think, is huge. And then addressing it, I think you have a lot of power in your hands right now, because this is often overseen, right? It's like, you are how you are. And then we do all these wonderful personality tests, and then we think we know the person. And I'm like, well, get away with those tests. They cause damage. But, the thing is that we love to put people into boxes, not the beautiful chocolate boxes and muffins and the others, but rather the boxes of how we think they should be, because this is what they were hired for, or this is where they come from, or this is their title. And all of a sudden, all of this is stripped off. And as you say, an extrovert loses their stage and now they falter. And how do we address those folks? I think this is a really, really insightful piece here to maybe, double down on and also take as a learning.
But no matter what, if I can just say out of the box, taking people out of boxes, every single target group we mentioned, from top management, middle management, lower management, introverts, extrovert, high potentials, people who are in onboarding, people who are getting new teams, they all have incredible challenges right now from a professional perspective. But what we can't forget is that every one of these people has a big cloud in their back. No matter how they are, no matter how introverted, extroverted they are, everyone has a big cloud of uncertainty, fear, anxiety, grief. There's people losing people, it's happening right now, like this is real. Like we cannot only just think of specific target, but actually right now, support is something that is needed across the board. And when we really talk about mental support and resilience building, these are not only capabilities that are now important in the short term, but they are the capabilities that will get you out of this crisis. And that is business case enough, right? You can also argue with, people are staying, but they might be half of their value in a not monetary way because they've been through 3 months of panic, stress, anxiety without getting support. And now you expect them to just function again. Some of them might have left because your competitor, they invested in their people, so it's also what you portray now is also how you're going to be perceived after. So
and I think we only can solve parts of it, right? I think that's also the problem we're facing, because if you have stress at work, but you have what Tatjana said, you have your little bubble at home that works, all of that coping strategy, I see for some people that's just missing because you're not going to the office. Can also be the other way around, by the way, right?
People escaping home.
Staying home moms and parents that say, I miss going to the office because that also makes me come home more appreciative and mindful towards my children, for example. So, if we move from one domain to the other, we move from one cloud to the other cloud, as you called it, Daniel. And I think that's why also it's very difficult to have. That's why I think that this one size fits all is so difficult. At least in the world or in our organization, I realized we have to go much more individual because
and deeper.
What is resilience? Resilience is not only at work, but it's also at home, and that's different for Vanessa than it is for me living alone. And it's so difficult, right? And I think this is what I'm overwhelmed sometimes. How can I have 160 different programs? I can't. But then we go back to the leaders, we go back to asking questions and trying to make sense. And I realized that just listening is just, I don't know, I say in German, it's half of the rent. It's just, I think it's a moment where we also don't have to overboard with actionism and programs, but just listen. And a lot of people just, feeling that you care. And this is so simple. And I heard that people say, no, just you spending 5 minutes asking me how I'm doing or doing a check-in. And we do check-in every single meeting. It's getting very annoying, but people see there is use of it to understand.
It's the socio-emotional level of learning, right?
And I don't see otherwise, right? It's I don't see if you had a bad day, because in the office, I have a face, you always know where I'm at. And people say, but the moment you're there on the screen, it's hard for me to tell, is it a good day? Is it not? In the office, I see it, how you drink coffee, how you speak to people, and that those micro interactions, I call them, are missing. And we need to learn how to live with less in every aspect, and also in interaction. And I think that's, even for us as professionals, I think that's a challenge and we're going through the same process, right? It's not helping someone who is in a different situation.
No, this is,
Yeah, no, very valid. I think it's a nice segue into our last question, actually, before we go into conclusions and Q&A. So thank you all for sticking around. As you said, now is the time to really try something new. Maybe it's a different level of listening. Maybe it's a different level of attention. And the question really is, how do you go about this? So, what is your kind of innovation landscape? You've raised a few topics, you've invented new programs, you've put in place new stuff and new target groups, new initiatives. But the question really is, what of this is going to last? What are you going to really implement and make it the new norm? versus, yeah, we are just addressing and kind of targeting a crisis with a start and an end date. It goes away, we bucket it, we put it on the shelf. But what is the real thing that is going to be different? If you can say a few words on that, really appreciate it. Who would like to go first?
If I can just, because I want to pick up what Alex said, and I don't want to, I just want to, being an expert in the topic and working with so many organizations on that, and it's not about, you know, putting coach up here anywhere, but really the power of coaching. Why? Because what you said before, Alex, around one size fits all, especially right now, has really little effect. And having someone that cares, who listens, this is what coaches do. And not only that, they help you build up resilience and capability to really grow strong and go through that crisis. And I'm not only necessarily, if you have the luxury of investing in coaching now, of course, I think you should do it. But in general, also sensitizing people about what it means to have a coaching approach internally, like to really now taking time, what does it mean to have a coaching leadership style, a coaching culture? Because I think this is what a lot of companies will need to start to implement and reflecting, because now I think this is a good thing about the crisis. We are all human. We are realizing how all of this is affecting us and how our emotions and fears and all of this, which will continue, because the crisis is not just a thing of 2 or 3 months, even if we go back to the office. So I really think like a coaching culture to implement that in a company through external support, but also building sensitivity around for leaders, what it actually means to check in with people, to really ask questions in a non-biased way, you know, that is so important to build your internal network and to create awareness for that, because this is such a powerful support. And I think this will what needs to thrive. And I see that with a lot of organizations in different ways.
Yeah. And that is actually, I continue from that, because one of the sort of programs which we had planned for the spring and which we did not postpone, but actually now built to be virtual program is coaching and feedback. Because the culture we want to build is actually the coaching culture. And we are going to train all our middle managers, all our leaders on the coaching approach. And that is actually, we have started now, or actually we'll start next week. And I fully believe that, I mean, even though we can invest on individual coaching, and through the modern systems even more than before, I think we can still not give it to everybody. So we need leaders and managers, team leaders, people managers who have that approach, who knows what is good listening, who knows how to show appreciation, who have certain skills to give feedback, to support, even in tough times. So who are emotionally stable themselves. And in order to support their emotional stable sort of being, we need to support them on that. So I think that coaching approach is really one of the key things in not just now, but in the future to stay as well. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Vanessa.
I can only double that. Sorry if I'm just.
Oh, sorry, Alex. Go ahead.
Because Daniel knows that I'm a big fan of coaching, and I've said once that I think the future of work, that every single employee, not only the leads, should have a coach, and that ties to also what Amma said in the first panel. You know, there is not a crisis for some of his leads because they learned over time to reflect and to make sense of what is happening and react to it. I believe this should not be a privilege. You know, I'm a big IDB advocate. I think self-reflection should not be a luxury of leads that usually don't have time to do it, but it should be the luxury of everyone who actually has and wants to do it. And I think everybody would be more resilient, so we don't have to react to a crisis. We're just, you know, reflecting on something that is not the usual, and we learned the skills before. And I hope really, and it doesn't matter if it's coaching through a program or not. I'm starting to believe we don't have the budget for a coaching program. I would love to. And I had this talk to one of the juniors in my team and said, you know, I want to offer people something. I'm not a certified coach. I said, forget the titles. It doesn't matter. do you have 2 ears that you can and want to use for 15 minutes? And she said, yeah. But, so what do? I said, just listen, because if you want to, and she wants to, train in coaching, I said, this was my hardest lesson. And this is the lesson number 1 you need to learn as a coach is listen and leave. In German, or where I did my training, we called it the holy time of the client. It's like you ask a question and you shut up. And if it's half an hour, then you shut up for half an hour. And he said, and if you can do that, you already know most of what a coach needs to do. And she looked at me and she was like, I can try that. So again, we don't have to go to 2-year trainings. I think we need to empower people to just do those little steps. And she tried it and she loved it. And she said, am I a coach now? I said, no, it's not that easy, but you made a big step. And I think, those little things
significant
matter so much, and empowering your organization to do it. And, and once I get the budget, we can talk about it again.
Very powerful. Thanks, Alex. I love what you said. Resilience should not be a privilege, and also the way of dealing with crisis.
Reflection should not be, totally love that.
Amazing. Yeah. Vanessa, go ahead.
Basically, the thing is, we got already guidance from our leadership team to keep whatever we can. So whatever we've done in the virtual base, whatever we've done in the networking outside of workspace, we will keep. The only thing I hope we can keep is this human and personal touch we're just developing at the moment. And this is something which I really hope we will be able to take over into the new normal, and remind ourselves of that one as well, and not going back to being this bit more functional people inside the workspace.
And one thing I think what you just said about leadership, what I think in the future will change, because there will be less budget, like these super nice offsites for the top 20 leaders, and then including a MBA or a mini MBA for a week, which is forgotten within a week again, for $1 million, so that 50% of the budget for your overall people is gone. I think this is what we will not see in the future. So I think, I'm not saying this is totally wrong, but it will be different. And I think the democratization, therefore, across not because so many times, we talked about coaching. Do you know how many times I talk to companies that coach their lower management? Like, it's close to 0. So it's like, just as an example, right? And not even talking about different groups. So like Alex said, it shouldn't be a privilege, but it's just generally, I hope that the democratization of learning and support and awareness for more people is what we will get through that.
Great. Okay, very mindful of time. Sorry.
Just one last comment. I think people experiencing the possibilities, I think, is going to be a very powerful energy in the future, because they now see, oh, okay, we adapted in a short time. We can do retros on a whiteboard. We can have a team offsite. I think the readiness to buy into new things, or I think there's going to be some, moving backwards again when the new normal, whatever happens. But I think, at least what I see in our organization, is people learn, oh, this is much easier than I thought. And I think to go for something new, also on an executive level. I'm not just talking about, employees, but anyone saying, let's just try. We made this happen. What else can we not do? And I think that I think is to keep that power and energy alive, is something I really hope we can do.
Yeah, no, thank you. I think this is actually wonderful concluding thoughts already, and we have a few more minutes left for Q&A. If anybody wants to ask, please drop your question into the chat box or put up your mic. You're very welcome. To your point, Alex, I think it is really a privilege to be in this role, right? To have been forced now to try, of course, but on the other hand, to really showcase that trial can work and can be extremely powerful, and that sometimes it's rather easy. It's really not a big challenge to do something new and to blow people away with the positive results and experiences that they can gather. So to everybody's point about the humanity, and also taking care of those who are not so obvious, and the lab people, Sari, you mentioned, the frontliners, the cloud thingy. I think that's a very powerful picture, Daniel. We'll piggyback on that. And also to what you said, Amma, about, there are resilient leaders. They've seen those waves and they've gone through a lot of drama before, but still just being alert and aware that we have to recheck in, reconfigure, and also just allow a level of reflection, I think is going to be really, really huge. And hopefully it's going to support us going forward. And I'm very confident with all these amazing leaders around, there is no doubt that there will be advocates and enough contributors to this. And to what you say, Judith, you know, sometimes it is a privilege to, you know, just be how we are. You know, who cares who we have around us and who is not around us and how we live and how we live our lives. We bring our very best selves, and sometimes that's just good enough. There is not much more we can do, then that's what it is. And I think if we learn to appreciate that, then everything else should be rather easy. With that, any questions? Anyone else who would like to raise a few final words before we close?
Will this shut down in 2 minutes, Tatjana?
That's my fear.
I just wanted to use that chance maybe to also make everyone aware. We had some great comments here, and from Prina from India,
Sven,
Stanislava, Sven, all really thanking the panel and all your expert insights, and reconfirming the importance of what's being said across the board. So also from my side, really thank you everyone involved for joining us as an expert, but also for joining as a guest.
Yeah,
definitely.
I just want to really echo that.
Please.
Actually, it's been really insightful, and I've really enjoyed the last conversation as well. There's a real sense of hope, you know. And I'd like to learn more about democratization. I think that's a really important theme here. So thank you all. Yeah.
Thank you. Beautiful closing words. We couldn't say it any better. Thank you, Amma. Thank you everybody for joining. If there are any more questions, please do let us know. Big sense of hope. Sven repeats as well in the chat. Yes, I think there is a lot of that, and then we all need it so badly. I think we could talk so much more and so much longer and add so much more value to everybody. So what I'd really love to ask you is please continue staying part of this community. If you have your local chapters, reach out. If there is no one around you, let us know. We'll help you build it. I'm also helping Enrique, the founder of Hacking HR, in doing this and bringing those communities closer to you. Otherwise, we'd love to have you on the show. Our next one is on the 6th of May, which is a Wednesday. The one after is on the 20th of May, which is also Wednesday due to public holidays. I will be announcing them. We'll give it a bit more lead time. And again, we'll be putting the themes out there which are on your mind. Yeah, so it is not about us. We have tons of ideas, Daniel and I, you can tell, but it is really about what matters to you. Do we want to double down on some of the topics we've just discussed? Happy to do that. Do we want to do something different? Happy to do that. I have 2 people lined up who are also going to continue meditation and other practices with us. So we are going to have repeated visitors who will be giving us a few moments of their time and wisdom to just, you know, relax, anchor, and find a bit of peace during these days. And at the same time, we obviously want to keep building on this knowledge and this amazing richness of all your ideas and all your solutions. They are beyond imaginable, if that word exists. And I think it's powerful, and they do give hope also to the HR community. So we'd love to write articles about this. We'd love to pick your brain on going maybe deeper in some of the ideas you recommended or some of the initiatives you're running. So let's keep this momentum. We'd really love to share more. And I think everybody out there is craving real insights and real practical advice. So if you can add your wisdom and your time to doing this, we'd really appreciate it. Other than that, just checking in here, no comments on the chat. Anyone else who would love to say something? Now's your time before Zoom.
We weren't shut down. We weren't shut down, so we don't.
And apparently,
we don't have to, apparently, we're still here.
The 5-minute range that you got.
I think there is something in it, but it's going to kick us out. Okay, so anyone else? Final words of wisdom?
Or questions still? I mean, while there are some people on,
yes.
Feel free, unmute yourself, speak up in the chat, or just some final remarks either way.
Just a thank you from me to organize this. It was a pleasure
Thank
to be here to exchange, because I miss, you know, having this exchange as well while we're all, you know, working. And, thank you so much for putting this together, Jan and Daniel.
Huge pleasure. Huge pleasure. We can't wait to be back.
Absolutely.
All right. with this,
Cool.
thanks so much. I'll keep the chat open for a little longer, hopefully, if it lets me, so we can also copy paste all the amazing insights there. Daniel, if you can help me with that. We have screenshots of the polls, and we're gonna say, as I said, continue all my scribbling and putting it into some sensible summaries, and then share with you and ask for your permission to share and to contribute further. And with all of this, thank you so much. Really, really appreciate it. Stay safe. All the best. Take care of you, and hope to see you again.
Absolutely. All the best. Stay safe and healthy.
Yeah, and you. Bye.
Take care.
Bye.
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 Muito obrigado, Kitos. And what other language?
Obrigada.
Obrigada.
Obrigado você. Vamos conversar, vamos continuar a conversação. Eu já vi que você, eu já te encontrei no LinkedIn, Ornella. Se você quiser, vamos continuar pelo chat.
Combinado. Obrigada.
Good to
Obrigado
have
você.
you. Thanks, Ornella. Stay on, Daniel.
Much. Yeah, I will stay on. I'm just actually trying to copy stuff out here. Nee, but ich hab Screenshots gemacht.
Vom Chat habe ich noch nicht. Ich habe von den Polls-Ergebnissen. Jetzt muss ich kurz gucken, ob der Chat noch drauf ist.
Ja, habe ich auch gemacht, aber natürlich habe ich
Das
die
geht
nicht immer
hier alles
gleich
immer
reinkopiert.
rasend schnell. So, ich habe den Chat hier. Warte, ich mache mal schnell ein Copy-Paste. Mal gucken, ob das geht überhaupt. Copy. Und ja, ich habe den Chat.
Ja, wir haben es
Yay.
geschafft.
Sehr schön. Und was sagst?
Ja, cool. Also ich meine, gerade am Ende, ich glaube, es brauchte ein bisschen zum Aufwärmen.
Ja, du, es war schwer, nach Cory überhaupt mal Gas zu geben, ne?
Total,
Das war
total.
War das nicht geil?
Krass,
So
ja.
schön.
War super.
So schön. Ja.
Ich habe mir gedacht, was wir halt für die, was wir da für die Zukunft irgendwie machen können, dass wir das Engagement gleich wieder hochkriegen können.
Ja, ich denke,
So.
vielleicht wäre da der Poll nicht schlecht, weißt du? Zu sagen, fandst du das jetzt hilfreich? Möchtest du mehr davon oder weniger? Einfach nur ein Gefühl für zu kriegen. Um ihnen so ein bisschen diese Transition von, oh mein Gott, das war jetzt total still zu ba, so ein bisschen zu ermöglichen. Ich glaube, das wäre nicht schlecht. Und vielleicht sogar eine Pause. Das wäre die Frage. Ob man so Leute dann mal kurz rausgehen lässt. Ja? Und sagt, wir fangen in 5 Minuten an, wir stellen die Mics scharf und bereiten uns vor.
Ja.
Das wäre vielleicht noch eine Idee. Aber ansonsten, also ich habe es gebraucht. Das war so hilfreich. Das war echt schön.
Ja,
Cool.
War super, oder? Hast dir gefallen vom Content her, Leute, Vibes?
Content war geil, ich fand die Vibes gut. Ich fand vor allem die vielen verschiedenen Perspektiven wirklich spannend. Jeder hat sein Bestes gegeben, jeder war auf die Fragen vorbereitet, hat mir gut gefallen. Und nachher auch dieser Übergang, wenn Leute einfach aufeinander kommentieren und das ein oder andere ergänzen. Schön, wenn man da nichts mehr zu beitragen muss. Ja?
Finde ich
das
auch.
Heißt,
Ja, das habe ich,
die Leute fühlen
genau.
sich wohl und nehmen es einfach sehr natürlich. Und das ist ein gutes Zeichen für uns, ja? Dass wir
Total.
ihnen den Raum gegeben haben, einfach so zu sein, wie sie es wollen. Und ich glaube, das ist ein gutes Zeichen.
Ich glaube, wir hatten im ersten Panel, ich glaube, das war nachdem es war ein bisschen weird, weil, ich meine, der hat es nicht so gemeint, aber Amma hat halt so, ja, ich sehe doch gar kein Problem. Das war, glaube ich, da war so ein bisschen Break drin.
Nee, das fand ich aber gar nicht blöd, muss ich sagen, weil auch das war wertvoll. Und ich sage dir auch warum, weil wenn ich so als HRler drauf gucke, sage ich, ja, das ist gut, dass er es gesagt hat, weil sonst könnte es ja heißen, naja, HR ist jetzt halt irgendwie komplett landunter und ganz verloren.
Total,
und
ja,
soll
total.
jetzt
Ja,
aus
klar.
diesem Tal heraus die Welt erneuern. Ja? Deshalb war das ganz gut zu hören. Der Reality-Check ist, da gibt es Leute, die sagen, ey du, alles schon gesehen. Ja? Aber trotzdem natürlich hat er einen schönen Weg dann daraus gefunden, um zu sagen, was er aber sieht, sind andere Themen. Ja?
Das war zum Beispiel, weil ich fand das relativ abrupt, so wie er da reingegangen ist, das fand ich ehrlich gesagt nicht so gut. Auch
Hat er aber
von der
gemerkt.
Vibes.
Er hat selbst gemerkt. Ne?
Genau, das kam nicht an und Leute waren echt so, ja, weil das Problem ist einfach auch, wenn du sagst, ich habe einen HR, den ich gerade coache und der ist total sane, also sehe ich kein Problem.
Ja.
Also, so, das hätte man auch ein bisschen anders verpacken können. Weil
Nee, ist richtig.
Sagt,
Aber ich glaube, er hat es
also,
gemerkt, muss man dazu sagen. Ich glaube, er hat es gemerkt, weil er ist danach deutlich weicher geworden
Genau.
und hat auch andere Aspekte mitgenommen.
Das stimmt,
Ja, aber das ist okay, du, das war das erste Mal und das ist alles fein. Das ist in Ordnung.
Also ist der Drop-Off, ist das normal? Also ich meine, es waren 30, waren jetzt gut, wir hatten halt 5, ja, ist halt so 40%
Also ich glaube,
Show-Up und dann sind
ja,
aber am
ich
Ende
glaube,
nur...
was der große Trieb war, das Exercise, dass das gezogen hat. Was man jetzt natürlich machen kann, das ist einfach dann, wie man Konferenzen halt managt, man macht sie in die Mitte oder am Ende. Ja, dass man sagt, also ihr kriegt es erst als Belohnung, wenn ihr da bleibt. Ja, ihr müsst euch den ganzen anderen Krempel reinziehen. Aber das war ganz klar der Zug. Ja, zu sagen, das ist was Besonderes und das gibt es gratis, weil sonst musst du dafür zahlen. Und,
ich weiß eben nicht, ob es, weil es war, die Leute sind schon geblieben noch, aber dann so 15 Minuten, nachdem der erste Panel angefangen hat, sind die Leute ein bisschen rausgegangen. Das war das, also das,
ist auch
deswegen.
Schwer zu sagen, ich meine, ja, nee, ist auch schwer zu sagen im Nachgang, warum. Ja, ich weiß es nicht. Ich tippe
Wir müssen
mal.
Feedback fragen.
Also ich tippe einfach mal, dass für viele, also das ist eine Annahme, für viele war das Exercise der Grund zu kommen und für andere war vielleicht der Wunsch, keine Ahnung, mehr heulen und mehr gejammert zu hören. I don't know. Aber das ist jetzt einfach mal Rumspinnerei. Schwer zu sagen. Ich glaube, der Bruch war einfach schwierig, vom Exercise in das Thema reinzugehen.
Ja.
Das, glaube ich, war ein bisschen schwierig. Das war ein bisschen schwierig.
Ja, aber die Dynamik hat mir dann gut gefallen und ja, also eigentlich...
Das war alles fein. Ich glaube, es waren nur diese paar Minuten, ne, wo es so ein bisschen wobbly war.
Genau.
Und dann ging das alles ganz gut. Das
ist halt so, irgendwie heutzutage haben die Leute halt auch keine Geduld mehr. Ne? Du sagst, du hast halt ein 2 Stunden Panel, es geht ja erstmal weiter, man muss sich aufwärmen, jetzt kommt da noch was. Dass Leute dann sagen, oh, nach 10 Minuten, so, das passt mir jetzt nicht, weißt du, ich gehe raus.
Ja, ja klar, Leute sind auch bei 30 Zooms angemeldet und gehen auf 2, ja. Das ist vor allem ja auch ein Phänomen in Berlin, wie wir wissen.
Ja, klar.
Aber grundsätzlich würde ich sagen, und wenn wir es für einen gemacht hätten und der nimmt was mit raus, ja, das ist immer mein Anspruch. I don't want to be a waste of time.
Auf jeden Fall. Also ich glaube, am Ende, wir haben ja, das ist das Schöne, ne? Wenn man diese Nachrichten bekommen hat, das war so super.
Ja. Genau, und ich habe hier zahlreiche Invites, also auch Leute, die gedroppt sind, die hier hinterhergehen und sagen, ich will mit dir connecten. Deshalb sage ich, das war absolut in Ordnung. Ich glaube, wir hatten eine gute Registration Rate. Turn-up 50% etwa ist okay, absolut fein. Ja, dafür, dass es für viele ein unbekanntes Format ist. Wir haben es zum ersten Mal gemacht, ist absolut fein. Und dass Cory vielleicht das Schmankerl war oder wer auch immer da vorne dann rumgeturnt hätte, das nehme ich jetzt einfach mal so an. Ja. Aber ich glaube, von der Qualität her, von der Zusammensetzung der Panels, glaube ich, gibt es nichts zu meckern. Schöne Aufteilung, verschiedene Perspektiven. Wir hatten sehr schöne Gender Balance, ist mir aufgefallen.
Ja.
Und schon am Anfang, das fand ich total schön. Und die Fragen waren gut. Ich glaube, der Poll war schön. Ich habe den 4. Poll nicht mehr reingenommen. Der hat nicht in den Flow gepasst. Ja, ich habe den einfach gecancelt.
Ja, nee, das war bei mir ja auch so. Ich habe es versucht, eigentlich den 3. Poll irgendwie ein bisschen gezwungenermaßen reinzudrücken. Hätte ich aber auch mehr einfach auf die Survey Results eingehen sollen.
Ja, nee, aber du, das ist in Ordnung. So einfach war es für Leute. Ich glaube, manchmal ist gar nicht so wichtig, was für Fragen wir stellen, sondern dass der Poll einfach läuft, ja, dass da ein bisschen was passiert, dass man da so seinen Senf ablassen kann. Und hast auch gesehen, das eine Mädel hier, die aus Portugal, die hat nebenbei gezeichnet, ne? Das ist eine Introvert. Die hat nebenbei gezeichnet, aber die ist trotzdem voll fokussiert. Ja? Solche Leute kenne ich zuhauf.
Nicht nur gezeichnet, sondern die hat auch, also ich glaube, die hat auch Notes gemacht.
Die hat viel mitgeschrieben. Die hat auch viel mitgeschrieben.
Ja.
Aber das meine ich, also das finde ich schön und jeder
hat
so
auf seine Art und Weise. Von Capgemini übrigens.
Ja, nee, sehr cool. Und jeder hat auf seine Art und Weise Content aufgenommen und aufgesogen. Ich fand es ganz geil. Also Conclusions hätte ich mir noch mehr Zeit gewünscht, klar. Dass jeder nochmal so ein Endstatement gibt. Aber ich fand es sehr natürlich. Also jeder hat halt gesagt, was er denkt. Und das war okay. Das Einzige, was ich sagen würde, wir sind am Anfang natürlich überrannt. Wir haben das erste Panel echt ausufern lassen.
Ja, wobei tatsächlich...
Nicht, liegt. Ja.
Wobei, ich habe es, glaube ich,
Wobei
aufgeschrieben.
insgesamt gar nicht so. Ne?
Es
Wir haben
ist
erst um
gar,
halb
nee, es ist
angefangen,
gar
oder?
nicht. Es ist gar nicht so überrannt. Nee. Das hat einfach gedauert und dann auch mit der. Nee, als du gesagt hast, wir müssen jetzt zu einem Ende kommen, wir haben um 16:40 Uhr angefangen. Da war es 15. Das heißt, es waren 30 Minuten. Kurz, ein bisschen mehr als 30 Minuten. 35 Minuten.
Ja, aber wir hatten ja den Wechsel zum anderen Thema erst um 17:30 Uhr. Da habe ich ja die Pause gemacht.
Genau, ja, gut, nee, stimmt. Stimmt.
Oder
Dann habe ich ja
anders. Also insgesamt, nee, ist ja in Ordnung. So 45, 50 Minuten ist okay. Das war ja die ursprüngliche Idee. Aber am Anfang hat es länger gedauert. Ja.
Genau.
Ja.
Also genau. Also du hast recht. Ich meinte jetzt, also ich habe die Frage gestellt, glaube ich, um 20. Das heißt, der Panel an sich hat 35 Minuten gedauert.
Ja.
Oder so. Und dann nochmal Fragen 10, also ja, so 45, 50 für den 45 Minuten für den ersten haben wir gebraucht. Ja, weil dann haben wir eine Pause gemacht.
Ja, aber ich glaube, so das lief ganz gut. Also wir hatten ja etwa jetzt, sagen wir, 45, 50 pro Panel, pro Abschnitt. Das lief ganz gut. Bis zu 4 Panelisten, ich glaube, das ist okay. Mehr würde ich jetzt nicht nehmen, weil dann überbieten die sich.
Nee.
Und 3 wäre auch schon wieder ein bisschen wenig, weil dann quatscht jeder zu viel. Also das 4 finde ich richtig gut.
Ja, genau. Da müssen wir aber, ja klar, also ich meine, es sollte sich halt jeder an den 2 Minuten halten. Das ist halt manchmal natürlich ausgeartet.
Das ist absolut in Ordnung und manche haben sich auch ausgeklinkt und dann stellt man halt eine Frage irgendwie. Das Schöne ist, die haben ja dann teilweise die Frage, 2 Fragen in einem beantwortet. Das ist in Ordnung. Dadurch holt man es ja wieder rein.
Eine Sache frage ich mich, weil ich finde, das zweite Panel war vom Inhalt her, gab es mehr spannende Impulse einfach. Weißt du, was ich meine? Da waren die Leute auch, da kam viel mehr Interaction auch. Ja, we also do that. Oh ja, thank you here. Ich glaube, im ersten war es ein bisschen
weil es halt Spezialisten.
Genau, weil
es schwierig.
Spezifisch ist, ne? Deswegen meine ich
vielleicht...
vielleicht...
Das Anfang ist generalistisch und das Zweite ist, naja, die haben halt ihren Job. Das ist wie wenn du einen Kompetenmenschen fragst, dann quatscht der auch den ganzen Tag über seine Themen. Müssen wir vielleicht spitzer formulieren. Ja, also vielleicht ist dieses in HR...
Genau, also vielleicht...
Was man machen könnte, spontan, dass man verschiedene Repräsentanten der HR-Funktion nimmt. Ja? Jemand, der Business Partnering leitet, jemand, der L&D macht, jemand, der OD macht oder Comp and Ben oder whatever, ever. Und die dann fragt, was machst du für die HR-Leute? Ja? Das wäre eine Variante, weil dann hätten wir es sehr spezifisch, trotzdem ein bisschen Variety. Und es wäre trotzdem auf HR fokussiert. Was mir aber sehr gut gefallen hat, und das hat sich auch so von sich ergeben, war dieser Fokus auf Kreativität im Chaos, Mindfulness, Menschlichkeit. Ja, das war auch einfach nur schön. Ja, da ist halt die Frage, wie kann man das spezifizieren?
Was ich auch spannend finde, ist einfach, dass am Ende, was Sie gesagt haben, und ich glaube, das darf man nicht unterschätzen, wir haben jetzt da 20, 30 Leute zusammengebracht, die sich ausgetauscht haben und das auch mal außerhalb von der Organisation. Das fanden die Leute echt super, wie der auch Alex gesagt hat. Echt super, mal den sozialen Kontakt, auch wenn es virtuell mit anderen Leuten zu haben und sich auszutauschen. Allein das zu geben und zu sehen, wie da bin ich stolz auf, dass wir das so gemacht, also dass wir das überhaupt machen, weil das ist, glaube ich, die Quintessenz von dem Ganzen und das darf man nicht unterschätzen, wie wichtig das gerade ist.
Was man da machen könnte, das wäre die Frage, wie wir es promoten. Kennst du No-Agenda-Meetings? Es ist ein Moderationsformat. Du greifst im Prinzip wirklich die Stimmung in dem Moment auf. Ja? Also du gehst ins Meeting und sagst, die einzigen Rahmenbedingungen sind klassische Rules of Engagement, jeder spricht aus, jeder wird gefragt, jeder teilt mit, bla. Zeitliches Fenster von bis. Und dann geht es wirklich, what's on your mind? What's bothering you right now? Ja? Und das kann halt überall hingehen. Da muss man ein bisschen vorsichtig sein. Das kann nicht jeder moderieren. Aber das wäre eine Möglichkeit zu sagen, how to stay in HR? Well, this is your space to just share. Sag doch einfach, wo es gerade drückt. Und wir haben hier 3, 4 Experten mit verschiedenen Kompetenzen. Wäre eine Möglichkeit, die dann ihre Ideen oder Vorschläge anbieten. es ist halt nicht very comforting für viele. Ja? Also manche werden nicht sagen, ich bin jetzt voll gestresst, weil mir mein Chef hier meine 3 Traumprojekte gekickt hat und im Übrigen sehe ich keinen und ich hasse das Kaffee trinken alleine. Also es kann so ein Whine and Complain-Ding werden. Aber das wäre halt die Frage. Ansonsten, was ich auf jeden Fall machen werde, ich habe ja die E-Mails von all den Herrschaften und wir sollten einfach ein Survey hinterher schicken. Und sagen, welche Frage hat dir auf den Nägeln gebrannt, hast dich aber nicht getraut zu fragen oder es war keine Zeit zu fragen? Würden wir gerne demnächst aufgreifen. Das wäre eine Option.
Total.
Ne?
Ja,
Aber sonst ist es ein bisschen Spekulation.
Genau, auf jeden Fall. Wie können wir das machen? Schickst du eine Survey rum oder soll ich das machen oder wie?
Ich überlege, also die Leute kriegen ja auf jeden Fall eine Dankesnote. Jetzt muss ich gerade mal gucken, wie funktioniert denn das hier? Manage Attendees. E-Mail, Attendee List. So, Moment. Wir haben ja alles hier. Das ist ja fantastisch. Download list as a PDF. Full attendee report. Pre-sort by last name. First name. Nochmal First Name. Und Download. Ja, schade, nicht als Excel. Die sind ja nicht ganz so blöd. Schön. Fantastisch. Was haben wir denn? Wo die Leute, das ist ja spannend. Griechische Nachnamen. Ich gucke nur gerade. Griechische Nachnamen, arabische Nachnamen, deutsche.
Ja, war schon sehr international, ne?
Ach, Carsten Leptich war drin. Nee, hat er registriert. Aha, interessant. Wer? Erzähle ich dir ein andermal. War ein sehr spannender Typ. Gabi Bonner. Hillary Klassen war drin, offiziell, aber ist nicht aufgetaucht. Aha.
Wer ist Hillary Klassen nochmal?
Secret HR Society.
Ach, der. Ja.
Mhm. Asiatische Namen. Total geil hier. Was ist das denn? Italienisch. Polnisch. Schön bunt alles. Also allein vom Namen her. Ich bin jetzt natürlich completely biased, aber allein von den Namen her sehr, sehr bunt. Sehr, sehr spannend. Finnen. Virpi habe ich da. So.
Virpi.
Wenn man das hier speichert. Moment. Email this page. Das. Claude an. Nee, Sheete an mein Gmail-Account. So rum. April 23 Attendee List. Als PDF. Yep. Ich schicke dir das mal direkt hinterher. Da. Und?
Ich schicke dir dann auch gleich mal die Screenshots. Wo soll ich dir die zuschicken?
Auf Gmail bitte. Schick's mir einfach per Mail, wenn das geht. Als Attachment, geht das?
Ja, dann muss ich es noch kurz irgendwie aus meinem Evernote raus.
Kann ich das noch speichern? Exportieren, oder?
Hat Spaß gemacht. Also war echt, war cool.
Total, ja. Also wir waren ja wie eingespielt, als hätten wir das
schon, oder? Das habe ich ja auch
sehr geil.
Erwartet. Ich weiß nicht.
Erwartet.
Ich fand mich nicht so gut beim ersten Panel. Ich weiß nicht, ich glaube, ich hätte da irgendwie. Ich war ein bisschen, glaube ich, so Amma hat mich ein bisschen rausgebracht, also meines Erachtens. Aber ja, ich bin da sehr selbstkritisch. Ich weiß nicht, wie das aufgenommen wurde.
Wie gesagt, ich glaube, wir müssen einfach an dem Übergang, ich glaube, der hat es gekillt, ja, da reinzukommen. Ich glaube gar nicht, dass das an dir lag. Und Leute prozessieren Informationen ja auch ein bisschen langsamer als wir. Wir machen das hier for a living, wenn du es so willst, und die kommen hier rein als Gäste. Also da würde ich gar nicht so kritisch sein. Das Einzige, was ich sagen würde, ist, ich hatte irgendwo eine Notiz, ich gucke gerade, kleinen Moment. Genau. Was ich beim nächsten Mal machen würde, ich würde mich nicht mehr ins Panel reinnehmen. Ja, also ich finde es viel spannender on the sideline. Nicht, dass ich nicht gern quatsche, ganz im Gegenteil. Aber ich finde es so spannend, was diese Leute alle zu erzählen haben.
Ja.
Und jeden, den wir angesprochen haben und jeder, den wir angesprochen haben, war so happy beizutragen. Ja, und auch wirklich die Airtime zu bekommen. Und als wir dann gesagt haben, es sind 2 Stunden, keiner hat gesagt, ich glaube, du spinnst. Ja? Und das ist, glaube ich, eine Wertschätzung. Wenn wir die aufrechterhalten, dann wird sich das rumsprechen. Ja? Und dann kommen auch noch viel mehr. Und wenn man dann mit denen noch mehr Zeit verbinden will und dann auch seinen eigenen Senf dazugeben, dann kann man vielleicht auf andere Formate wie dein Podcast oder ein anderes Format steigen. Ja? Zu sagen, okay, let's double down on this and spend a whole hour, just you and I. Und dann wird daraus irgendwie ein Fireside-Chat oder was anderes. Ja. Aber ich würde mich einfach rausnehmen, weil ich glaube, es ist einfach too much. Ja. Moderator und Panelist zu sein, wenn so viele tolle Leute da draußen sind. Ich schraube da mein Ego einfach runter. Ja. Also ich lasse mich da gern von anderen einladen und quatsch die voll. Aber habe jetzt nicht das Bedürfnis, bei jedem Panel immer dabei zu sein, weil das Problem ist dann, man dreht auf. Ja? Ich meine, wir sind gern auf der Bühne, wir drehen dann auf und dann zurückzukommen, dann muss ich immer beide, ne? Meine gespaltene Persönlichkeit, Moderator, Host und Gast und dann, ne? Wem gebe ich Ihnen jetzt hier den Vorteil? Und ich möchte in dem Konflikt einfach nicht sein. Ja, also für mich ist einfach total cool zu sagen, war jetzt witzig, aber ich muss nicht in jedem dabei sein. Bei ganz vielen Teilen, klar, möchte ich was sagen, aber mein Privileg ist, das macht mir am meisten Spaß, jetzt die Zusammenfassung zu machen und da die Schwerpunkte zu legen, ja, und zu sagen, das war hier Bam, ja, und das hat richtig Spaß gemacht. Und übrigens, wenn ihr noch mehr hören wollt, dann müsst ihr zu uns kommen und wir würden euch auch gern interviewen und podcasten und tralalala. Ahmad hat auch schön gesagt, Generosity and Kindness, this is the time to prove. Ja? Und also ganz viele schöne Statements, von denen ich hoffe, dass wir Freigaben bekommen.
Ja, genau, machst du dich das an, aber es ist halt schon, ich finde, da war so viel geiler Content drin. Die Frage ist, wie kriegen wir die da jetzt raus? Da müssen wir es halt noch mal anschauen und nochmal
also normal, wie ich es mache, ich lege meine Notizen immer erstmal einen Tag weg, weil das ist jetzt so viel und auch das Cory-Ding, ich muss ganz ehrlich sagen, das hat mich ziemlich geflasht, da bin ich total happy, gut das gelaufen ist. Wir haben nichts getestet, nichts geprüft, ja. Der Typ kommt und liefert. Und ich lasse das jetzt liegen, ich sehe aber schon, wie das formt. Also ich habe den Artikel schon vor mir und würde mich da morgen mal dran setzen, sodass der wirklich noch frisch, Jesus Christ, frisch raushaut. Total fresh.
Total fresh.
Dass der spätestens am Montag draußen ist. Ja, also ich würde da noch mal Zeit geben, drüber gucken, Leute bitten, da mal quer zu lesen, ob sie okay sind mit ihren Statements. Aber ich würde es einfach gerne wirklich vorbereiten. Ich hau's dir mal rüber. Was ich mir gut vorstellen kann, ist, dass du auf dem zweiten Panel vor allem aus deiner Sicht auch nochmal, wenn man es so will, die Peer Summary machen könntest, nochmal zusätzlich. Ja? Okay. Ich bin ja einer von denen, der sagt,
das mache ich gerne, aber ich kann es ja aus einer Outside-Perspektive, aber ich war auch Teil vom Panel, da auch ein bisschen drauf eingehen. Ja, ich wollte da jetzt auch nicht...
aber du hast ein paar schöne Sachen gesagt, vor allem dieses More Individual and Deeper. Ja, da seid ihr und du und Alex gut reingestiegen. Dann gab es Democratization und das hat Ama schön aufgenommen, zu sagen, da wüsste er gerne mehr drüber. Ja. Ich glaube, da kannst du einen schönen Aufreißer draus machen. Und nützt ja auch dir. Ich meine, ist ja auch in deinem Branding-Interesse.
Genau, ja. Also das ist auch was ich aber ich glaube, ich kann das auch gut verpacken, ohne dass ich mache das nicht irgendwie pitchy, sondern ich glaube, es geht mir auch gar nicht drum, aber es geht mir wirklich, weil wir wissen ja alle den Power davon, aber wenn wirklich davon die Rede ist, wir müssen individualisieren, wir müssen Leute, Coaching. So, ne, aber auch mal die Awareness schaffen, das nicht einfach nur so, okay, du musst jetzt einen Coach kaufen, sondern ihr müsst euch als Organisation auch mal
aber Coaching Culture war geil, ja, da sind ja alle draufgesprungen und haben gesagt, was ist das eigentlich? Und da
das Problem ist, da wäre ich noch gern tiefer eingestiegen, weil das ist ja, Leute bouncen das ja immer nur hin, aber haben keine Ahnung, was das überhaupt ist, ja.
Aber
und
das ist deine Gelegenheit.
Stages, ne?
Aber das ist deine Gelegenheit zu sagen, und Coaching, eines unserer Gesamtconclusions als Panel ist, establish a coaching culture, which is the here to stay zum Beispiel. Und dann, but what does Coaching Culture actually mean? Und da kannst du ja alles reinbuttern, was du hast. Ja? Oder noch einen Teaser geben und sagen, wir müssen quatschen. Und darauf kannst du ja dann wieder deine anderen Formate aufbauen. Aber das finde ich, glaube ich, ist wirklich etwas, was zu dir gut passt. Da würde ich gar nicht vorgreifen wollen. Was ich mir nehme, ist ganz klar dieser Impact auf Menschen, Society. Ja, also gerade dieses Staying Human. Was hat es eine Auswirkung? Weil ich immer noch voll davon überzeugt bin, was wir in Organisationen leben, leben wir auch in der Welt. Und das ist etwas, das würde ich einfach gerne hervorheben. Und das passt schön zu einem anderen Projekt, wo wir über Curating Culture sprechen. Und wie es eigentlich bedeutet, mit lebenden Organismen zu arbeiten und wohin die denn so führen. Ja? Und auch da gibt es ja Krankheiten und externe Effekte und wie reagiert der Körper und Antikörper. Und da gibt es ganz wunderbare Parallelen. Ja? Wie funktioniert eine Organisation als Organismus, wenn er angegriffen wird? Ja? Wenn plötzlich eben gewisse Boundaries nicht mehr da sind oder gesetzt werden. Oder was muss ich tun, wenn plötzlich mein Impfstoff, mein Training, mein Leadership nicht mehr funktioniert oder noch nie funktioniert hat. Was mache ich dann? Das ist total geil, da sind super Leute dabei, das macht einen Riesenspaß. Das stretcht mich komplett, weil das eine sehr medizinisch, biologisch, wissenschaftlich, technische Seite und ich so, wow, hell. Aber es ist so geil, das stretcht mich massiv, das macht Riesenspaß. Da würde ich einfach gerne drauf eingehen und dann eben gucken, ne? Where do we go from here? Und dann, mein Lieber, müssen wir uns mal Gedanken machen, unter welches Motto setzen wir den 6. Mai? Ja? Nehmen wir jetzt Snippets und gehen tiefer oder machen wir erstmal und schauen, was passiert?
Dann müssen wir, mir brummt gerade ein bisschen der Kopf, ich muss noch mal
deshalb
raus.
Sage ich.
Lass gerne da einfach mal eine schöne Debrief-Session machen.
Ja.
Wir haben gute Impulse, wir haben es einfach gemacht und haben super Feedback overall und wir können beide stolz sein. Danke auch an dich vor allem, ne, das so zu treiben und mich da mitzunehmen. Das ist richtig cool.
Hey du, allein hätte ich es nicht gemacht, also das komplette Eigennutz. Ich brauchte a pair of hands. Nein,
wir hatten ja eine sehr gute Arbeitsteilung und auch von der Promo ist das ja perfekt. Das spielt nicht nur beide in die Karten, sondern es ist auch, wir haben dadurch ja auch durch unsere Netzwerke die meisten, ich gehe davon aus, dass wir bestimmt 2/3 nur über unsere Netzwerke gekommen sind. Ne? Also,
ganz genau, ja. Nee, es ist einfach geil, es macht Spaß. Ich sehe hier die Invites und denke mir, wow, was Leute. Ja. Da sind auch Leute, die waren nicht dabei. Ich denke, es ist total geil. Lafarge-Holcim sehe ich hier gerade.
Ach, das war Stanislava, ne?
Ja, und ein paar andere Herrschaften, wo ich mir denke, okay, also meine Inbox bricht hier gerade, aber sehr, sehr geil. Ja, das macht riesen Spaß. Das ist ja genau das, was wir wollten. Und dafür, dass wir es zum ersten Mal gemacht haben, auch noch virtuell mit einem externen Gast, den wir physisch und persönlich nicht kennen. Hallo, das war geil. Punkt. So, jetzt haben wir es.
Ja, sehr gut.
Ja, also danke.
Ich schreibe dir mal gerade, what could we improve?
Ja. Danke an dich und lass das weiter drauf abzielen. Ne?
Und sehr, nächstes sehr Mal dann nochmal, wir können dann gerne nochmal, also ich sage jetzt mal, ich habe schon ein paar Leute wieder in der Pipeline, aber lass mal gut zusammennehmen. Ich glaube so Special Guests, aber auch gerne richtig High Profile, ne? Also der Stefan, der Matthias Reuter ist ja Global Head of Leadership Excellence, ne? Von Siemens oder auch, ich habe mir überlegt, auch ich kann die anfragen, wenn du willst. Ich kenne sie vielleicht auch, aber ich kenne sie, die Janina Kugel.
Ja. Ob die Zeit hat, meinst du? Java hat ja gesagt, ne, sobald es ein bisschen ruhiger wird für den. Janina ist auf jeden Fall ein Knaller.
Ja,
das ist eine Knaller.
Die hat schon Zeit.
Auch Bettina von Vodafone, die ist jetzt Vodafone Deutschland, die war in Spanien vorher, hat da die Bude gerockt, hat eine wirklich scheiß Integration von Vodafone und Ono geleitet, die einfach...
Echt? Kann ich mir vorstellen.
Ne? 2 Welten, ne? Sowas wie Deutsche Post, oder wie früher Mannesmann und Vodafone. Gehen halt mal zusammen und schreien Hurra oder Kabel Deutschland und Vodafone. Und dann hat sie Ono, das war ein Drama. Aber das war ihr Ticket. Das war ihr Ticket in die größte Opco, die Deutschland ist. Ja, also eine sehr, sehr geile Person, mag die sehr. Und da gibt es noch so viele da draußen.
Wir haben ich meine, es ist halt immer noch Berlin, das heißt, wir sollten immer, glaube ich, unsere 2, 3 Berliner dabei haben. Ich habe jetzt zum Beispiel, was ich ganz nice finde, ist die BCG, Digital Ventures Learning and Development Lead zum Beispiel.
Nice. Ich kenne bei denen auch jemanden.
Ja, also das glaube ich, das wäre vielleicht ganz spannend. Ja, ansonsten.
Wer auch ganz geil ist, die mag ich total gern, die sind von wie heißen die? Die machen ganz viel Research, HR. Nicht die Leute, die anderen. Josh Bursin kenne ich natürlich und Dave Ulrich, muss man halt auch noch irgendwie anhauen. Aber
Ja,
die
Dave
machen,
Ulrich wäre natürlich, aber das wär,
ja, der ist zurzeit, nee, wir haben eine Möglichkeit, weil der sitzt momentan bei Mihai Nagy von ehemals HR Congress. Die haben ja umfirmiert jetzt auf Hexa. Mihai hat mit dem eine Serie gestartet. Da laufen auch Live-Shows und Blogs und tralala. Und ich bin Teil des Orga-Teams, Hacking HR zum HR Congress zu bringen. Entweder live, falls wir uns tatsächlich in Valencia treffen sollten, oder eben online. Und so oder so gibt es dann Überschneidung. Ja? Und da gibt es noch ganz viele Leute in der Pipeline. Was ich nur sagen würde, bevor wir die Leute ansprechen, sollten wir einen Flow haben, der gut funktioniert. Ja. Und
ich glaube, ich glaube, wir können das auch aufbauen, ne? Zu sagen mit dem Big Bang,
ganz
also erstmal so, dann nächstes Mal schon more high profile und dann, wenn das nochmal gerockt ist, dann haben wir auch alle die Leute, die jetzt das geteilt haben, also dabei waren, können wir taggen, die werden sharen und sonst was.
Die sollen Promo machen
Aimen
und so
weiter. Dann aimen wir auch für mindestens 150 Leute. Ne?
Ganz klar. Und das andere ist, ich habe letztens, als du so gelacht hast wegen diesem Mitternacht-Call, mit anderen Hacking HR Chapter Leads gesprochen. Und einige von denen haben sich zum Beispiel verbündet und machen virtuelle Sammelevents. Ja, zum Beispiel in Südamerika haben sich 4 Chapter zusammengetan und machen ein großes Ding. Und die haben 400-500 Leute, die dann antanzen. Ja, also auch das wäre eine Idee. Ich habe die in Zürich, die ist total geil, die ist momentan ein bisschen still geworden, um die mache ich mir gerade ein bisschen Sorgen. Bei der muss ich mal schauen, wie es der geht. Der in London, der ist ein bisschen kompliziert, aber da geht vielleicht was. Aber wir haben in Osteuropa ein paar ganz, ganz tolle. Das Schöne in Osteuropa ist, das Publikum ist sehr loyal. Die dürsten, gibt es das Wort? Nach Wissen und nach Erfahrung. Und da gibt es auch ganz tolle Leute in Kroatien, die ich kenne, Venturelli-Partners, die machen auch ganz viele Events. Und da gibt es noch mehr davon. Ja? Wir haben ein paar Influencer auch in Rumänien. Rumänien war lange Zeit mein Home-Turf für Vodafone und andere, Adobe auch davor. Und da gibt es ein starkes Netzwerk. Also wir können uns auch das überlegen und zu sagen, wir nehmen einfach ein anderes Chapter mit rein und einfach um den Spread zu erhöhen. Und gleichzeitig haben die aber auch 1, 2 Gems da draußen, die mit Sicherheit Spaß machen. Ja, da geht noch mehr.
Okay, und jetzt noch, um das abzuschließen, ich habe gerade eine so lange Feedback-Nachricht bekommen vom Sven. Total geil, total reflektiert, mit richtig gutem Feedback. Also wirklich sehr lange, sehr viel Feedback. Und am Ende abgeschlossen mit, ansonsten Paul super eingesetzt, auch die richtige Menge und als Einstieg für die Gespräche ideal. War eines der besten Remote-Meetings, die ich in letzter Zeit besucht habe.
Hallo.
Oder? Das ist doch schön, was von jemandem Kritischen zu hören mit so einem Abschluss, oder?
Sehr, sehr geil. Ach ja, Störgeräusche, stimmt, Mikro, da hatten wir am Anfang Probleme. Und ich habe die ganze Zeit überlegt, wer das ist. Und als ich dich mal stumm geschaltet habe, warst du es.
Ja, genau, witzig. Ich habe mein Top-Mikro, schau mal, ich habe mein Podcast-Video.
Super nice. Dann hau das mal raus. Genau, das war eine Kopplung, die ich noch gemerkt habe. Aber ich mir denke, was ist denn das? Alle sind stumm, das kann doch gar nicht sein. Genau, und das war bei dir dann, das war sehr witzig. Aber hey, Kleinigkeiten. Ja, weiß nicht, woran es lag. Oder du hattest gerade Papiere von A nach B geschoben, aber da hat das Mikro geknackt. Aber macht ja nichts.
Ich habe das Equipment, aber ich kenne mich auch noch gar nicht aus.
Du, take it easy. Wir haben ja 2 Wochen. Paul super eingesetzt, richtige Menge. Einstieg ideal, war eines der besten. Nachgang nicht mehr so hoch. Weniger ist mehr. Schön. Ein gutes Moderatorenduo. Oh, das lassen wir uns hier einrahmen, ne?
Ja. Nee, also das war, glaube ich, gut. Also die Energy von uns war top und das ist einfach das Wichtigste, ja, dass die Leute engaged sind, die Speaker sich geil fühlen. Ist immer, deswegen sage ich ja auch immer, ne? Also deswegen werde ich ja auch dann für die Konferenzen gebucht oder ich meine, du bist ja auch auf Bühne, das macht richtig mit Passion und engaged. Und wenn das natürlich im Doppelpack ist, Mann, Frau, noch besser.
Total geil. Das ist ja Dream Team. Also da bleiben wir dran. Da möchte ich dich nicht verlieren. Bleib gesund.
Ja, du auch. Ich gehe jetzt mal raus, jetzt reicht's.
Ich muss auch, ich habe schon Schuhe an.
Jetzt reicht's. Sehr gut.
Also,
Alles klar. Also Tatjana, mich gefreut. Ich habe dir die Screenshot schon geschickt, ja. Und dann lass dann demnächst mal debriefen und so weiter. So, aufpassen nur, ne? Erstmal mit dem Recording stoppen und dann lädt es ja ewig, ne? Computer anlassen, nicht, dass das dann.
Yes, Sir, geht klar.
Ja. Ich mache fast täglich jetzt mit dem Podcast und so.
So, aber guck mal, jetzt habe ich unsere ganze Feedback-Session mitrecorded. Total geil.
Ach scheiße, ja gut, dann einmal cutten. Ich kann dir auscutten oder Leute, also wenn du das einfach nur